Hello, everyone. This is Korak from the American Riichi Mahjong League. I am joined by Anhui. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a long day of streaming for me. Just got done streaming with a friend doing a learning stream focused on Rigi Book 1 stuff. So I'm like all limbered up and ready to talk about more Mahjong.
Well, don't burn out too quickly because we have a few games ahead of us, starting with B2A. As you can see in this pool, there are a whole lot of 20 of 20s. Now, this is in the Beta League pool, so they will not necessarily have a next session. If you fall into the playoff spot, you'll be playing in the next 2 weeks. But you're really looking to secure a safe spot, and we have four people that are above zero. And Garrick is, of course, fighting for the guaranteed A1 spot. You don't want to be in those 5 to 8 slots because then it's a 4 game playoff winner take all for that last promotion slot. And everyone else is just kind of sitting there making sure they want to at least get the B2 slot and potentially get into that free for all match.
Yeah, when you say you don't want to be in the playoff, that's only if you're already in a position to secure a spot in B1. I am sure both Matthew and Austin would be absolutely thrilled to get into one of those playoff spots.
Yeah, especially with how Austin's been. He was sitting at minus 90 not that long ago, hit a really big hot streak. And here we go, starting each one. Dealer has Adora, probably Pinfu, maybe Peiko on the right. We have Pinfu. Across, we have another Pinfu shape. And on the left, we have an awkward Chanta or
It's 10.
Junchan.
There are 10 unique terminals and honors in that hand. So,
I count 4 regular
oh,
tiles, 5 now. So no, I think you're off by one.
I'm off by one. Listen, I can't do math.
That's okay. I can't do math either. But not much is going to happen. We do see a bunch of pairs up on the right. Now, you could call even possibly Honitsu, but then you'd be breaking like 2, 3, 4. I think probably just going to call the South if the last one comes out and go for the 1,000 points.
And we do see Austin here discarding the one Mon. They had 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4 in their hand in the Monzu. So trying to just kind of localize that shape there, try to support the Ipeco a little bit.
Well, it's an awkward shape because you have two penchants, two pairs. You're almost feeling you could end up going Chitoy.
Yeah, 4 pairs so far for that, so it wouldn't be out of the question. And now we have
Okay.
the
Well,
Haku
now
call.
much less likely. You fill the 7 but on the left you see a pawn of the Haku, probably trying to pull in a 79 Sanchuku along to add Shanta, Dora, Sanchuku, Haku, which would be Mungan, but still pretty far away.
It feels like one of those hands where you're opening it because there is no other way you are ever getting to Tempai.
Oh, yes, these shapes are pretty bad, but if you pair up the 9, so you're looking at a hand that's not that far off.
Do you see Garrick on the right opening if that completing that Ryoncon might make it a little bit less likely. What do you think Garrick wants the final weight to be?
You'd love to have that Shampump. We have a dealer Richu to begin with. Richi, Pinfu, Dora, possibly Peiko, although there's only one Tumon left. You see the 5 mon across the way, so there are 4 on the wall.
3 5 mon and 1 2 mon to be exact with the 4 there.
Now, if you're Garrick on the right, you'd love the Shampump, but all of a sudden you're just like, I'll take anything, and kind of working around here. Could have had Tempai here, but that 4 so does not look safe against this pond.
And keeps drawing honor tiles as well, which
Well, meanwhile, we're starting to see a Honitsu forming on the left here, but oh, there's the Sumo for the dealer. Richi Sumo, Bin Fudora. And the Oradora, and there's a Mungan to begin the game. Austin jumps out and he's rewarded with a really nice starting hand. The double East Yaku, a floating Dora, great pairs, callable. It's actually Ryan Shanten already. It's beautiful, but it's going to be really hard to use that Dora.
but you can keep it around for sure. That would be the quickest way to get a second Mongon.
Oh, interesting choice. Cutting the south here. I definitely just got the June, but has some ideas for how to move this hand forward. Really wants to use that Dora. On the right, we have Pinfu shapes, a Dora, maybe Tanya. Of course, if you can pair up the Tumon Dora, feeling great. Across the way, we have a bunch of lone Yakuhai honors, so honestly feels pretty slow. On the left, we have a Pinfu, or actually just Ishunten for Riichi Nomi. You'd like to move it into some sort of flexible Pinfu.
Yeah, and in the chat, it has been mentioned that Austin has a 4.1% deal in currently. So that'll be something to watch out for in these games. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yes, Austin's been incredibly defensive, and it wasn't rewarding him for the first few sessions, but he really started pulling it together in that last one. As you can see, is now back over +0 and definitely has the potential to jump up to +100 in this game.
We have Ishanten for Garrick on the right. Oh, and could improve a shape here, and does, so is trying to ensure that he gets Pinfu.
Interesting draw here with this 6-mon. You could just go for the Tanya, you could throw it back and keep your white Ishunten. Okay, kind of floats the option with both. If you pair up the 5-mon or 7-mon Yuadi Peiko, so I like this.
The shape that Austin just pulled into the hand. Well, actually, we'll get to that in a second, because we do have the Riichi Pinfu Dora 1 on the right, and on the Forso, because Garrick is waiting on Forso and 7-so, the Forso would also give a 4-5-6 Sanshoku, so a very valuable hand on the right.
I think the important thing is it's Furi-ten, though.
Yeah, the 7-so already in the discards.
But so fishing, especially over that 4-so, there's a total of 1 in the wall of those. And dealers and a Tempai will probably take the Dorotanki here. No, just throws a 2-so instead, waiting on that 3-mon. Thinks it looks better in the wall here.
It's also Suji to the Riichi on the right, so you could reasonably see someone discarding the 3-mon if they don't have anything else safe.
Well, maybe, but as a general rule, don't trust Suji near Dora. It just ends very badly. Of course, the thing on the 3-mon is they're all across the way right now. You see 3 of them there, and of course the dealer has 1. So this wait's actually dead unless it comes out from the hand across. Ooh, and that 1-mon's kind of scary. And just flat out folds. So I was just terrified of the 1-4 Suji here.
Do you think that Austin's lead, because this is a fairly valuable hand, do you think Austin's lead is in part informing this fold?
It's going to be part of it for sure, but just didn't like the Dora shape. Anything you deal into there is going to be 3,900 minimum. It's going to be Mongon a lot of the time. Oh, there's another 7, so the weight's continuing to get weaker. There are still 3 left, though. And that's the last draw, and that's trying to do it. Oh, and the Dora comes out. Oh, that's a little tragic. We will have 1 player Tempai, pulls in the 3,000, so a net 2,000 from the hand. And we move to East 2. Here has a nice completed shape in So, decent elsewhere, 2 Dora. You're really looking to pair up one of your Akuhai and just start calling everything. On the right, we have Pinfu, but feels a little slow. 2 Penchons, couple extra flows. Across the way, we have 2 of the East, so you could just call for the Yakuhai. Distant Honitsu, but I think that's just a call and go hand, especially with the Penchon 9-8-mon waiting on the 7-mon, which is Dora. On the left, we have a pair of Haku and a bunch of really ugly shapes. Kanchan, Ryankan, and Penchon. Yuck.
That's a hand that definitely needs to be called if you want to speed it up at all. If you pulled in the 9-pin as Matthew across the table, would you think about Chanta?
Well, I'm thinking about Chanta anyway. Oh, I do not like that 8-mon. I'd honestly like to go Itsu with this hand now.
Although that is likely not going to be an option anymore, and we see Austin on the left making those calls. Like we said, when there's only one way to complete your hand, you might as well just start calling them, and that's Haku Dora 1, so not bad.
Yes, and getting that 8-mon was always going to be the hardest part of this hand. because it's going to be used in so
Home.
many shapes with Dora. Even here, it was cut from the overlap on the 8-9 and 5-6. Hands are starting to come together, but the question is who's going to be the fastest? And right now, it looks like the hand across the table.
Yeah.
It was in
Garrick's
Brianna
hand is
Ramanisha.
Garrick's hand is kind of awkward. How would you break up the blocks for Garrick here? Oh, well, that 17 helps, but still.
I'm just calling for Tanya. I'm not even really thinking about it. I'm just looking for an excuse to call. But you look at these discards, you're like, how's this going to be Tanya? Well, that's how.
Home.
Now Ishan 10 can call, well, almost anything here. But Tempai on the left, waiting on 5-pin. There are 3, of course, in the hand to the right, and 1
You
in the wall.
you were talking about calling for Tanya. Garrick actually missed that. Could have
Yeah,
cheated the
I'm
five
definitely cheating
so.
that 5 so with 3 Dora. Ooh, now you Dama, I think. I normally despise Dama, but this is a bad weight Dama Mungon, and it just came out not that long ago, so it looks really good. Tempai across the way waiting on 5-8 pin, so actually a chance for a double roan here.
On the 5-pin.
Yes, just on the 5-pin.
Dom.
Oh, and there's the
There's
5 so.
big deal in Ipeko, Tanya, Dora 3. And that completely switches first and second place as Austin pulled back under 30K. And Garrick's doing quite well now. Has a decent starting hand. You see potential for a lot of shapes, but you have a lot of extra floating honors. May end up calling, but lots of routes his hand can go. On the right, now that's a good starting hand. Looking for Pinfu, Tanyao, maybe a distant Sanshku in 2-3-4 or 3-4-5. Across the way, we have maybe Honitsu. You have the extra doors, could be hard to use otherwise. And on the left, we have a bunch of pairs. 1, 2, 3, 4. So not quite enough to guarantee you'd be going for Chitoy, but you have to keep it in mind with hand like that.
Well, all the other shapes are so disconnected, except for maybe the Monzu.
Interesting choice by Christopher on the right, cutting the 7-mon pair. Normally you cut 7-mon or 7-pin or 3-pin.
Is
Which side
there a
not
particular reason to preserve that 3-5-5-5-7 shape?
Well, it accepts a ton of tiles. The problem is a bunch of the tiles you're accepting, you already have pairs for, so it doesn't actually improve the hand any. And I think the 6 so discard is a flat out efficiency mistake. You should be throwing the 3-pin there, maybe getting a little too attached to the idea of drawing Dora. Well, you could always go Sanshoku now with that 5-mon draw. Would need a 4-pin and a 5 so in order to get Tanyao Sanshoku.
And meanwhile, on the left, Austin has entered Ishanten for the Chitoy. Actually draws a third 8-pin now.
Well, you'd love to go Suanko, and it's kind of floating the option for now. And I'm fine with this, but across the way we have a Honitsu coming together, but not much value here unless you end up on that Dorotanki.
The problem
Dealer's
is, so
going
far,
for the
most of the
open. Dealer's going for the open Itsu, maybe if the Haku comes out, but we haven't seen any of them yet. Ooh, and across the way, Tempai, but it'd just be for Bakuho and him here waiting on the 5-pin, but you still have to throw Dora. Takes the Tempai, really looking to call either the 9, 6, or 4. Ooh, and now an Anko of the Haku for dealer here. Do you just cut the 4-5-mon? I would.
It's certainly more valuable.
Well, you're in Ishanten no matter what you do, so you get slightly better shape if you cut, say, the 9-8 so, but you get so much more value this way.
Yeah, the issue might be an argument against the Honitsu here might be the number of low so tiles that have already been discarded. We do have Tempai for Toy Toy on the left for Austin.
I'm saying the pay was not Daiminkan as well. Because this hand has no value, I'd probably gone ahead and called it just to make something out of this hand. Speaking of Daiminkan, another option and another pass. Could call this to improve the shapes a little bit, but not much. That's what you're really looking for. the Tempai now waiting on
Done.
369, I believe.
Yes, indeed. Although there's not many of those left. Although it won't matter. The 5 pin came out into the just Honitsu that Matthew built.
Well, doesn't know it, but that was probably one of the cheapest hands on the table. But we move to East 3. Dealer has pretty standard Pinfu hand. On the right, we have another pretty standard Pinfu hand, maybe Tanyao. Across the way, maybe any Peiko. Love to pull in a 3-mon Dora to complete your shapes. You also have a Haku pair. And on the left, again, pretty standard Pinfu type hand.
I really like your optimism calling Christopher's hand a pretty standard Pinfu hand while it still had 4 isolated honors.
Well, it looked a little bit better to me just because you have all the obvious shapes there. One of the first things to do, I'm looking ahead is seeing, can I count to 5? If you have your 5 shapes, the chances are those are going to be how you go. The question is, can you fill them? And you do have the Rionman, including the door, and that's always nice by itself.
And a note about Matthew's hand on the right does have the Yakuhai South, so uh, could still create Itsu in the Sozu, but not Pinfu, unfortunately, with that hand.
Yeah, going ahead and taking the option to be a little greedier later, plus the 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 so actually accepts the 3 or the 8 for 2 completed shapes. But an interesting hand is developing across the way now. The question becomes, how greedy do you get if this East comes out from dealer? And you have to figure it's going to come out at some point. Ooh, or that. I think you just cut 4-mon here. And the question is, do you want to get super greedy?
Boom.
I'm poning. I'm going all in for it. Oh, yeah, here we go.
Boom.
And interestingly, the Haku is completely locked up at this point.
Boom.
Ooh, I don't like throwing the 4 back, though.
Yeah,
We do have Tempai on the right here now for 1,000.
waiting on the 6 pin or 9 pin.
Done.
That's 9. Yeah, it's just gonna come right out. It's obviously the tile just didn't fit the hand, but when you're in first like that, paying out for 1,000 switch to dealer is not a bad outcome.
And we're noticing a lot of very cheap hands here, eliminating a lot of threat at the table.
Well, it doesn't matter how big your hand is if you don't finish. And dealer here has pretty good hand here. You have the Chun pair, Shaw pair, a floating Dora East. Of course, if you can pair that up, this immediately becomes a monster. On the right, we have decent shapes in pin,
Gee.
but feels pretty slow. Across the way, we have decent shapes as well. If you pull in the 3, 5 so, then the hand starts looking better, but also with a floating East Dora, you really want to pair that up. On the left, we have maybe a 1, 2, 3 Sanchku, maybe an Itsu and
Boom.
So. But I think the fastest hand is just dealer here.
Yeah, do you think Dealer's going to try and turn this into a Honitsu?
I think it's going to be Hanitsu Chanta. That's what I do. I'm
Yeah, and with
certainly
the discard of
developing that
the
way. Of course,
yeah,
if you
discarding the
draw
5/6 Rionman.
if you pull in the 6-mon, you take it. But you're really hoping to get Chanta out of this too.
Boom.
Well, is that Chun going to come out? There it is. As you play, it's a awkward Ishan 10, but you don't mind waiting on Doratonki. The interesting thing is, if the 9 comes, you're calling it and telling the whole table, you know exactly what I'm waiting on, and I don't particularly care that you know. But
There it
instead,
is.
pulls in the 6, and we'll be waiting on that Doratonki, of course, could come out from Garrick anytime.
Yeah, and if the 9-mon is pulled into the hand, that would upgrade this to a Hanuman, currently just a Mongon, actually taking the better weight as opposed to holding on to the Dora there.
Here's, okay, well, oh. Yeah, there are some backfires. Going for the better shape here, Sumo would be extra foo. As of right now, it's just the standard 5,800 point Roan. And it's Tempai across the way. Do you just force the 4 in? Does. Takes the Dom waiting on 5 so. Oh, and there's the 9. But it's just focused on this 5-8 weight. And you see people just willing to throw everything in Mon except the 5-8 right now. We've seen the 3, the
1
4, the 6.
4
Oh, and the Dama's going to deal in with that 5 so. Deals in for just the 1,300 point hand. Does shut down the monster dealer hand. So many backfires. Kind of tragic couldn't make anything from all that.
1
Yeah, and once again, we do see the cheap hands prevailing here. Although, if you're Christopher especially, you're going to need to start thinking a little bit more about value as we enter South 1.
And we're in South 1. Dealer has a pretty standard Pinfu hand, especially pulling that 5 pin. On the right, we have a pair of Chun and great shapes. I believe that's already Ishan 10. Wouldn't have any value, though. Across the way, we see a call of the 8 Mon for maybe it's open Itsu. Pretty far away, I think. Maybe a shift to Junchan. And on the left, we have a Sha Anko and great shapes elsewhere. But again, the problem is no value. Really looking to pull in that 3 Mon Dora to fill that penchant.
Austin has pulled in a second Haku, improving the hand there. Oh, and Christopher pulling in the Dora 3mon.
Well, you
Pump.
decided to go open Itsu with his hands. You just commit to it. On the right, we see a call of the
Pump.
Chun, and now Ishan 10 looking for a head. And there's everyone's like, okay, we need to speed this up
Gee.
now, as dealer calls the Haku. Tempai across the way, waiting on 3-6. Of course, only the 6 mon is a Yaku.
What do you have to do if you draw the 3mon, if you're Christopher?
I don't even know. I'd honestly cut the Tuso in that situation.
Well, and we have Tempai for Garrick on the right now, a Tonki waiting on the 1-so.
Dealer has
And-
2 of them, and they're not likely to come out.
And a question about
There's a
the
Sumo
6.
across the way with Itsu Dora for just the 2,000. So stays in 4th. We move to South 2.
A quick question for your reason for discarding Tuso if you draw the Dora 3mon. Is that so that you can still construct the Itsu?
Not only can you construct the Itsu, but now you even have a chance to turn it to Itsu Dora 3.
Okay.
Which I think is your best out if you get in that awkward situation. That's always something you have to consider to go out to Zuke. Is what's going to happen if everything backfires on me? When you have that many calls, you can't really back out of it, but you can maneuver a little bit and try and make some value. But here we have dealer with a whole bunch of awkward shapes. Kanchan, Ryanman, Kanchan. I mean, one decent shape isn't going to cut it here. All right, we have pretty nice starting hand. Double Yaku High South, now completed with the Anko of it. A pair of Chun, could go Honitsu, could go Toy, although seems a little less likely now. I think you're just calling and going there. You're already sitting on, oh my goodness.
Wow.
That hand is scary now.
Do you discard the pair of 1 pin to go for Honitsu, or do you discard the 5-7 for Chanta?
I think I just go Chanta. Yeah, because you're much more likely to call the 1 pin, the Haku, or the Chun. So I agree with this. You're giving up the acceptance of the Dora, who, speaking of accept for Dora, Tempai now for dealer. Dama Pinfu.
This is
on.
perfect Ishan 10. Dealer is not Tempai yet.
Oh, my bad. That is not a 6. My bad.
1
Ooh, we have
and
Tempai on the right.
Christopher-
Yeah, you absolutely reach this. Ooh. And a nice draw of the 6 Dora across the way as well. But all right, we have Chanta, and then Haku or Chun, and Double South. So
And Ricci.
really expensive. And Ricci.
So Hanuman minimum. Well, and if someone draws the Haku or Chun, oh god, if you're dealer,
Say, I don't think it looks that scary, but correctly throws the 8mon instead. That's
the issue is going to be if Garrett gets to Tempai.
Yes, and it's live, and that 4mon's a really terrible draw. So this may be a fold now. Well, that 7's definitely a push. Hoping to call the 6mon here. deliberately hoping it comes out from Austin on the left, then we'll call and force the tune.
There are still 3 winning tiles for Christopher in the wall somewhere.
I see Austin hesitating here with Adora Suji, but goes ahead and throws it anyway.
リーチ
Now that's Tempai across the way for Ricci Pin Fudora. And there's a tune.
ロン
Oh, and there's the deal in from Austin. Huge, Ricci, double south, Chun Janta. No Aura, but Hanemon anyway. And we now have a really tight fight for first.
And Austin, without a dealer turn, is going to have to really dig to get out of fourth.
Well, you get a Hanemon, and then you pick up a hand like this. The question is, how hard do you want to commit to the Honitsu? And I like the aggression here. I'm just going for it. If I draw 3 Mondora, then okay, maybe we play it a little slower and just get a quick hand. But the 9-pin's going to be pretty easy call. I figure the Haku's going to be the Non's going to be pretty easy call. On the right, we have, well, yuck. Across from us, we have distant Pinfu shapes. Again, just not feeling very good. On the left, we have a Haku pair and pretty good shapes otherwise. I like that head a lot.
What do you think about Christopher's hand pulling in the 5 Mon? You had said if you pull... Well, never mind. There's the Dora. Nothing matters anymore.
Yeah. That's just it. You're floating, just hoping it doesn't turn out that way. But if it does, it's like, okay, whatever. And on the right, we're starting to see an early Chi Toy because that hand is otherwise irredeemable.
Was also apparently floating the idea of Kokoshi. Had only discarded the simple tiles from the other suits, waiting to discard the 1 Mon and 9 Mon for last. Oh, and we see the Dora
Super
discard from
greed.
Christopher.
Normally, you dump 2-pin, 2-pin because you're thinking maybe I can add Ipeco to all this, but instead going all out for the greed. I actually think this is a mistake. You're moving way too far back. And yeah. Could work out, mainly because the rest of the hands just aren't developing that well.
Well, and now your hand is also extremely obvious that you're going to be waiting on pin.
Exactly. And Garrick says, okay, I'm enough of this garbage. I'm going to reach you with a pretty good weight here. Of course, really hoping the Hatsu comes out for Ricci Hatsudora.
Yeah, so a question here. So here, the 6 Mon is once cut, and the Hatsu is live. It does not come out from Matthew, but they say that a Shenpon on Yakuhai has the same win rate as a Ryanman. Is that any Shenpon on Yakuhai? Do both need to be live, or does it need to be once cut? What's the situation there?
Well, the answer is normally because people, when they try to fold, are going to just force them anyway. It's a little awkward here because you have an obvious Honitsu, maybe even 2 Honitsu hands at this point. So the chances of them integrating into the hands is actually fairly high here. So I don't think the normal rules apply.
That's a good thing to keep in mind. Although I feel like the value might be another good reason that Garrick called the Ricci. And you also couldn't call Roland on the 6 Mon if it happens to come out.
Yes, and a little bit of a backfire because eventually draws the 3 Mondora. Could have, at least in theory, been able to reach you in the 6 Mon there. But now we're going to see if that Hatsu comes out because this is the only person I think it could come out from. But I think Austin just folding at this point, unless you get Tempai.
Perhaps the easiest way for Austin to advance on this hand would be if Matthew dealt in, although that is unlikely. Oh, the 6 Mon!
It's Nakasuju, so it looked pretty safe. And that's the other side of just throwing the stick in, is eventually that type of trap can form naturally. And Austin just taking hit after hit here, and we're in all last. Although we see a magnificent hand on the left. It's Ishan 10. Not quite the Shosushi because the East and the West are going to be locked in the hand of the right. So going to be very awkward to fill this, and they just use the. Ooh, okay. The Easts are completely locked up. The Wests are completely locked up. Ooh, this is interesting. I think we may end up with Cheetoy on the right, honestly, because nothing's going to fill otherwise.
Richi Chitoi Honitsu would already be Hanuman, and actually two Doras. That would be a Baimon. A Baimon Sumo would
Hon.
be. Well, God, even a Baimon Sumo isn't quite enough
Uh-oh.
for.
Well, I think the hand's dead now, because now that it's been called, we know the East and the West will never finish. So it doesn't matter what else happens to this hand, it's over, unfortunately, for Austin. But Dealer here sitting in a pretty nice Ishanten with 2 Dora. Would love to pull on another 2-pin here. And we didn't even go over most of the hands here because I don't think we really needed to. The hands kind of play themselves at this point. The only question is, can Garrett get involved in this? Is now Headless Ishanten, but breaks it up, says, I don't really like the potential 8-pin and 2-mon weights, especially the 2-mon's going to be very hard, as we can see.
Wrong.
Although you'd think it's better. Oh, there's the 7-mon. Deals in on the left for the Mongon, and that's not quite enough to take first.
And not quite enough to lose third either.
But we have Garrick pulling out the win with a plus 29. Christopher getting 18.2. Matthew with minus 15. And Austin with the minus 32.2. And I think Austin's deal up rate, of course, will go way up after this match. But I think only one of those is his fault. The rest were just really awkward situations that I don't know you could do anything about.
Yeah, and I mean, really, everyone at this table has incredibly reasonable deal-in rates. Like, even 12.1, I think that's still below league average.
Yeah, it's pretty close to league average, as I remember. Oh no, league average is a lot higher. 14.1.
So everyone at this table wins a lot and does not deal in all that much.
But we see the standings here, and of course, Garrick is right on the cusp of jumping up. But these stats haven't been updated. Garrick actually is in a B1 spot right now. And there we see it on the right. Garrick jumping up to third, Christopher in seventh. And it's basically at this point, Austin's probably out of the top 8, which is what you'd need for that all for one spot in the B2 promotion game for 5 to 8 in B2A. And so the real question is, can Garrick hold on and get a secure spot? And the second one is, who gets that last spot in the B2A winner take all playoff? Will it be Christopher, Joe, or Matthew?
And with everyone else's games being complete, we are not going to see all 4 Hanchan tonight, but once this group is done, everything will be totally decided for Pool A.
Yes, they got their games taken care of well ahead of time. Congratulations to this pool for being there and taking the initiative and getting this done. Of course, you have a lot of people looking forward to a potential break after this session, but we don't get a break as we have the next game starting. Dealer has a whole bunch of pairs, maybe a Honitsu, maybe a Cheetoy. On the right, we see a pair of the East.
Hon.
Decent shapes in So, but I think this is just another call and go type hand across the way. We also see a bunch of pairs and decent shapes as well. The problem is no value yet. On the left, some
Hon.
pairs, but looks more like a Pinfu, maybe Tanyo hand.
Oh, that 8-so is a very good upgrade, though, completing that Kanchan block.
Yes, now the shapes look very established. Definitely going to be a Pinfu type hand. You have perfect Ryan Shunten, I believe. The Chun is Dora, and no one has any of them.
Chi.
We see the Chi of the 4-mon.
And Austin's kind of floating as to whether it's going to be Honitsu or Chinitsu. Of course, oh, there's the first June, comes right out.
Yeah, with that hand having so many established good shapes already, we can kind of see why Garrick didn't decide that he needed it.
And
Although,
punished immediately. See, when you have two bulging shapes like that, I kind of like floating the door here, but probably thinking there's a decent chance the
Honk.
dealer has it, and if that turns into a Honitsu Chun Dora 3, everyone's going to be terrified. So getting rid of it now before the dealer pairs up. Of course, the thing is, dealer didn't actually have any, so there's the backfire. The thought was correct. I have a problem with it.
Christopher's Ishanten is incredibly wide here, and there we go. Finally gets it. Waiting on the 3-mon
Gee.
and the 6-mon.
And we have a perfect Ishunton on the left, and we have dealer calling for the 2-mon Hataka Donkey for Chinitsu.
Oh, does anybody discard a Monzu now?
Well,
Riichi.
it's scary. I'd probably
This is
push the
Tenpai
7
if
here.
you discard
I
the
love
7.
this.
Oh, it is!
Yes.
It's a Sanmin-chan
Oh,
weight
it's
on the.
such a greedy play, but I love it because the only
But-
thing it deals
but it's-
into is the Hellweight 7-mon.
But it's Furton as well. It's waiting on 2-pin, 5-pin, 8-pin.
I missed the Fury 10. Yeah, and all three are in the discards. Oh no, this is terrible. In fact, that means that there probably aren't that many winning tiles left. Let's see, the 8-pin
Only
has
2.
one left. The
There are-
5-pin. Oh, we have a Ricci on the left, waiting on 3 6-pin.
And there are
And
much
there
more
are
3
four-
6-pin left in the wall.
4 of those left.
So the 2-sided weight is
Sumo.
exactly twice as good as the 3-sided Furton weight, and there's the Apatsumo.
And I think the interesting thing here is the absolute disrespect for the open Chinitsu from dealer.
And
Oh, we
Light
have a
Pink
possible
Yoshi.
Chiho. Nope, missed.
Light Pink Yoshi pointed out in the chat that the 2-mon was actually completely live. It was nowhere to be found at all, and that is what dealer was waiting on.
Yes, a 3-pin draw there for Austin would have been Chiho. But draws a 4-mon and decides not to take the double Ricci. Going for a little more value here. Trying to pull in Ricci, Pinfu, Tanyo, Ipeiko. But dealer has pretty standard Pinfu hand on the right. Pinfu, maybe Itsu across the way. Looking for a
Ricci.
789 Sanchoku, maybe a Chanta. But here we go. The hand on the left, which is Austin again, passing the double Ricci to begin
Ricci.
with. And now is on Ricci, Pinfu,
No.
Tanyo, waiting on 3-6. And there's the Apatsu
Ooh.
Ricci, Apatsu Tanyo. With the Pinfu, and that is Mungan. And looking a little bit better for Austin in this game than the last one went.
So, I mean, with 3 Hanchan left, Austin still could make a run for one of those playoff spots, especially since that would mean dragging Christopher and Matthew down. You could actually lower your own threshold.
Yes, if you pull both of them down, you don't necessarily have to jump all the way to that 141 spot. If you can pull both of them down to around 60, then you can jump both of those and replace basically Christopher's relatively safe spot. With 4 games, it's entirely possible, but we're down to 3 now. But here, dealer has a Pinfu type hand. He'd love to pull in Tanyo as well, maybe an Itsu and So. On the right, we have a tone pair, so maybe just call for the Yakuhai and go. Across the way, we have a Tanyao Pinfu hand, and on the left, we have Pinfu as well, just looking for a head, basically. You also have a Dora there, so maybe Dora Donkey.
It's interesting, both Christopher and Matthew having the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Sanmen-chan, and then the 9 floating next to it.
Ricci.
Oh, and we have a Ricci now from Matthew, waiting, ended up with the Sanmen-chan weight, the 2, 5, 8 so. This is Ricci Pinfu.
It's actually a pretty bad weight, all things considered. The 8 so are completely dead. There is one 5 so and two 2 so. So 3 outs from Assam Menchon, really depressing.
Yeah, well, Matthew does not know that since they are all in the hands, and any one of those could still theoretically be discarded by one of these players.
Nice
So
little
they're not
Ishan 10 on
totally
the
dead.
right. Will Garrett push? No, just gonna go ahead and play it as it was. And that early dealer Ricci does look pretty
4
threatening. Of course, we know it's only Ricci pin through, and that's going to deed the deal in.
And that was Austin again.
And an Uradora, so all of a sudden not as cheap.
That was actually just enough to bring Austin underneath 30K.
Yeah, some pretty close fight now. You have Garrett kind of out in front, but everyone else pretty close. Dealer has maybe 1, 2, 3 Sanchoku, but probably just anything would be fine. On the right, we have Pinfu
Honk.
shapes. Across, we have a pair of Haku, and now a call on the Haku. Probably not any value yet. You'd love to add the 79 Sanchoku, especially with the 9 Sodora, but it looks a little bit away. On the left, we have a 1, 2, 3 or 2, 3, 4 Sanchoku forming. Possible Junshan, but unlikely.
A question about Christopher's hand. Christopher had on the one peen draw the exact same hand, but with a one peen drawn. Would you have discarded the one peen?
I don't mind it. That's more or less forcing the 2, 3, 4 Sanchoku, though. It just is it that much difference between the one pin or the one so? Because that would probably be your alternative. This leaves gives you some flexibility to move back towards the 1, 2, 3 Sanchoku. We see a Dora drawn by dealer and just thrown back immediately. Doesn't fit in the hand that well. It is an Ishan 10.
A pretty funky Ishan 10. Could have discarded the 6-mon there and
I don't like
had
throwing the 1. You give up your possible upgrades to Sanchoku here. Oh, and there's a door backfire.
リーチ
But okay, just gets the Ricci Nomi. Waiting on 3 pin here. There is 1 left in the wall, although it's going to be very difficult for Christopher to be able to use all 3 of those. May end up discarding it if getting to Tempai. But I don't think this table has any inclination to fight this unless something much better comes up.
yeah, Christopher does seem to be folding so far. Discarded the pair of one so, which are Genbutsu. And there's a
Well,
3
there's
peen,
the
but it
last
fits
one.
into
We are
Austin's hand.
Tempai across the way, waiting on 6, 9 Mon. The 9 is Gimbutsu. Might come out right here.
4
And does. Just gets the 1,000, but you also get the Ricci stick in the home button. That gets you back over 30K. Moving to East 4.
Yeah, and I mean, last place to first place is just about 1,000 points here, so everything is still incredibly tight.
Ooh, and dealer pulling in the pair of the double East, and now it's called. So all of a sudden goes from absolutely nothing to an open 2 on hand. Distant Honitsu, but probably not. On the right, we have a Hatsu pair and pretty nice shapes. Actually, pretty close to Tempai. I think you're just going to call and go. It is the Dora as well as being Yakuhai. So everyone's very interested in it. Across the way, we have, I believe that's Ishanten. Yes, that's Ishanten. Looking really good for just a Riki Tine. On the left, we see an early Toy Toy. But, of course, you can always pull in the north, which is Yakuhai.
Ooh, interesting. What do you think of that 4-so discard from Christopher across the table?
I don't like it. It's getting greedy for the 3-sided weight in Mon, but I don't even want the 3-sided weight in Mon because I don't want the 1. I'd rather lock in the tie here. I think it's a little aggressive.
We see no more of the Dorohatsu have come out for Austin yet.
And then Garrick's now working towards a Nice little Lee Shun 10
Home.
here. Of course, you'd love to go Honitsu, but it's never going to happen. We have Tenpai on the left. We got 7-pin Pei. Pei is Yakuhai.
And is once cut.
Chi.
Well, we're going to see Tenpai Chi here, waiting on 258. So there are a
Sumo.
lot of outs there.
Oh, the
but you
sumo on the
on
peg!
the last Pei. And that'll be 5,200, and you're right back around 30,000. Everyone is at this table. The highest point total is 32.3, and fourth place is 27.4. So anyone's within striking distance. We move to South 1.
Yeah, 4,900 points separate last and first here.
Dealer has possible Itsu and Mon, but honestly, those shapes are just hideous. Ryankan, Kanchan, and double Ryankan. On the left, we have maybe Pinfu, but probably too many pairs. Not quite sure what it's going to be. Across the way, you see in South Call, also the Dora here, so probably just take anything you get here. And on the left, we see a pair of Chun, a pair of East, but East is no longer Yakuhai, and a Dora. But I think it's another one just call and go.
What would you have to... Well, never mind. I was going to ask, what would you have to draw into Matthew's hand to discard the Dora in favor of the Honitsu?
Honestly, it'd be the Haku. If I draw another White Dragon, I'm just going for it. But the problem here is you're going to end up throwing Dora, and those shapes are pretty bad. You have a pair, you have a Kanchan, but you're pretty far away, all things considered. You have to remember, two suits do you absolutely no good. And the Shun doesn't do you any good. Meanwhile, other people are really starting to develop their hand. Dealers Yan Shunten. And on the right is kind of stuck, though. It got stuck on too many pairs. This is always the problem with these Chi-Toy type hands is you love turning to regular hands, but the draws don't come. They just don't come.
Matthew's hand looking much better after pulling in the 7-so. Now Ishanten.
Love to call the East and just take the Tenpai here. Of course, the 3-mon will be very difficult to get because there are only 2 left, and one is locked in Austin's hand. Ooh, interesting discard of the 8-mon. I think just selling out for Chi-Toy at this point. Normally you'd cut the 3-pin instead, but there are a lot of pairs there, so it's understandable.
Do you dare discard the 3-so?
Well, it's going to come out later, because now we do see the 3-pin come out. Oh, and just as that happened, you see the backfire. We're going to see a Chi here, and just wait on the Haku. They're all live. All 3 of them could come out.
Yeah, but with 3 calls now.
And there's extra foo because of the 2 terminal, the terminal and honor call with the Tonki honor. Uh-oh, this will be 1,500 if this gets thrown. Dodges it for now. Probably seeing the Tuso overflow and going, maybe it's not the best thing to throw right now.
And a great Dora pull for Austin. Now has the Ryanmen shape in the Monzu. Just needs to get to Tenpai before Matthew wins.
I think Austin's just folding at this point. Maybe if something backs in, that'd be nice. And there we get rid of the Haku, and Garrick says, okay, thank you, it's safe now. But awkward shapes here for Austin. You'd love to be able to push, but if you're not going to throw anything in the Sosu, you're kind of stuck here. Of course, we know anything that would be thrown would probably end up dealing in here now.
And it's funny in part, too, because in any other situation, we'd be looking at Austin's hand and thinking that this could be like a Hanuman. I mean, this has 2 Dora, 3, 4, 5 Sanshoku, Tanyao. And we do have a Ricci from Christopher on the right, waiting on the 4-mon and 7-mon. So that's Ricci Pinfu, and could get 1 Dora if a 4-mon comes out.
Yeah, just Ricci Pinfu. You'd love to pull in more, but sitting in 4th place, you're not as scared of the Honitsu. You have a pretty good idea what it is. And if you have an equivalent weight here, you're willing to fight. Would be interesting if 5-so is drawn.
Yeah, everybody at the table currently Tenpai. Or wait, no, Austin.
No,
Austin's
right no 10. Oh, you see a Now you could take Tempai if you throw the 3, so you would be 4e10. Just
Oh, do
thinking
you do
long
it?
and hard about it. Just no. The issue here is the 3 so could end up double roan here. But 2 players Tempai, and we're going to see a switch as Austin drops to 3rd place. We have a new leader across the way at a monstrous score of 31,200, which gives you a pretty good idea where this game is.
Yeah, everything's just gotten tighter. The difference between last and first was 4,900 at the beginning of the last hand, and now it is just 3,300 rather.
Yes, and dealer here has a bunch of pairs, maybe in Sanshku Doko, but with a 4s that's always hard to complete. Now it's looking more like a Pinfu type hand. On the right, we have awkward shapes, maybe turns into Pinfu eventually, but yuck. Across the way, we have Pinfu shapes, maybe a 678 or 79 Sonshoku. On the left, we have nice shapes in Mon. You're thinking, is there a way to turn this into anything other than Chitoi? And the answer is maybe if you pull in and you Peiko, but you're starting to pair everything up, so you have to start thinking about it.
What do you think about this 44688 Pinzu shape for Christopher?
It's not as bad as it feels. The problem is you already have other pairs. Because
Although
if you're
if you
still
draw one
looking
more
for
pair, you'd be Ishanten for Chitoi.
yeah, and that's probably what you're going to do. You're likely end up cutting the 1 so and 4 so from this hand eventually, regardless of what happens. But I'd be looking at this hand and going, I need an excuse to call. I'd have just called the 2 Mon there, honestly, which wouldn't actually improve anything immediately, but would definitely signal to the rest of the table to hurry up. Ooh, that's a nice draw. You know, just cut the 1 so when you've guaranteed Tanya. I strongly disagree with throwing that back.
Home.
Because now you've pwned, and what's your Yaku going to be? Just selling out for the Doko. That's the only thing it could be.
Sometimes you just gotta believe, Korak.
If it's an 8 or a 9,
Hey,
okay.
look at it.
Now I'm
There it
starting
is.
to believe. Well, that's not going to come out. The 8 might. It's going to be the 2 or the 8 this turn. And then you cannot win on that. But we have to assume that 4 is basically locked up now. So looking for 1 4-pin. There's 1 in the wall here.
You can also still draw the 4-so. I mean, that would be the final one.
Well, if you draw a 4 so and con, then I guess you could Rinshan on the 8-pin.
Yeah, or I mean, or you could just discard the 1-so and discard the 1-so and then be
Take the Tanya out.
Tanyao.
Interesting decision. I think I'd just con in that situation. If you're selling out to this extent, now just throwing the Dora back. So I think you've committed at this point. We have Tempai. No, that's not Tempai. Still looking for a head on the left. My mistake.
An interesting. What was the 6-pin discard there from Austin on the left? Safe against dealer?
Safe against dealer. Not quite sure what dealer's doing, honestly. Because I've been in that situation. What the heck?
There's the final 8-pin.
Because you see a 4 so discard call like that, and you look at that pawn, you go, what on earth is the Yaku? And if you look at this, you go, wait, what?
リーチ
There's Tempai, so the 6 was obviously the right discard. Richi Nomi waiting on 5-8 Mon. Of course, almost all of them around. Now, that is the last one, I believe. You just discard 1 so here. Tempted. He's tempted to just throw the 8. Okay, that's the correct discard. 6 is safe. 9
The
isn't
4
safe, but honestly, I don't think the hand's worth pushing.
4-pin still in the wall for what it's worth.
Yep. Well, I don't think it's coming out from either of these two. It's dead walled. The dream is dead. But
That
we do have
1500 though is very nice. I mean, that 1500 once again, we're now everybody's below 30k because of the Ricci sticks in the middle.
Yeah, everyone's sitting When
Hold on.
fourth place is at 29,300,
Here,
that tells
here's
you everything you need to know.
all right, Korak. Here's the hypothetical for you. We have two exhaustive draws where nobody is Tenpai. Under our rule set, all of the Ricci sticks disappear at the end. If everybody ended up below 30k, what on earth would happen with the Uma?
There is a special asterisk specifically for this case. If all four are under 30k, I believe it defaults to the standard 15.5 minus 5 minus 15, but I have to look it up to be sure.
Oh my
But
god, that'd be
I
insane.
do know there is a rule here because it is specifically written in. Because I remember looking at that and going, that seems so ridiculous. How could that possibly happen? Well, you're looking at how it could possibly happen.
But dealer's hand here looking very good. Could still get 456 Sanshoku. You'd be happy to discard the 1-2 Pinchan. Oh, that's not dealer.
Dealer was on our left before. This is dealer. Sanshoku is correct, but different one. Look at the 789, maybe a Junchan as well. Although much just like with that 4, just throws it back. I'd have thrown the 8 so in both cases. I would have kept it last time, and I'd have had a pair. But anyway, head on the right is Ishanten. Look for something connect to that 4. Could have taken the Tenpai
Reach.
with the 9 so pair, but didn't like it. Cuts the 1-2. Across the way we have Tenpai for Ricci Nomi, just waiting on the 7, so there are 2 left. On the right, on the left, we're also Ishanten.
And now we
there's
have
our
Ishan.
pair. Yeah, for the dealer, and that keeps Chanta open.
That 8, so it's Suji to the Ricci tile.
Yeah, the 3-5 doesn't make that feel good because you can obviously have a 3-5-7-9 shape and it look exactly like that. But just given the potential, you just have to push it. If deals in, it deals in. Ooh, interesting choice here. I think you just cut the 7-9 and feel a little sad in pin. Yeah, and that's just going to happen. The Chun is actually dead, so it's going to be very hard to use this hand.
Still 2 more 7 so in the wall.
Interestingly, because the Chun are dead, ooh, could call for Tenpai, but I agree with passing on that. Ooh, there's Tenpai on the left. The 9 pin is also dead, so this would just be waiting on the 1 and decides no, forget that.
And this is something I'd like to note that Austin just did here, and we've seen Austin do this a couple times. We've had conversations before. Well, I'll let you talk about this Ricci before I make this note.
Well, it's a 2-5, and there's the Ipatsumo on the cheap end, but you still have a Dora, so it doesn't matter.
Well, there was also 3,600 points in the middle.
Yeah, and that's over 40,000 now. And in an absolute dominant position, Matthew comes from nowhere. But we move to South 3, and dealer has decent shapes. You have to pull in something like the 3 Mon to make that Mon shape look better. But a bunch of floaters. On the right, we have Pinfu, probably not Pinfu type shapes. Just Ricci shapes. Of course, if you draw the 1 so, you'd feel great pairing that up. You already have pairs everywhere. You're maybe even thinking Toy again, especially if you draw a 1 so, your hand really opens. And yeah, this hand is moving towards Toitsu type hand.
We do see 2 of the Dora 1 so are already in Christopher's hand on the left, so it's going to be kind of hard for Garrick to pull another one in.
Yeah, it would be really hard. Across the way, that looks like, well, not even a Pinfu type hand now. Probably just a Tanyao. Not too much value for us. And on the left, as mentioned, 2 Dora, maybe a Sanchoku, but it's going to be a little awkward. I think you just go for whatever you can.
Oh, that 7 Mon pool was fantastic for Christopher.
Yeah, still has 1 Kanchan, but potentially Ricci, Pinfu, Dora 2, which is what you need when you're sitting in last, although last is relative when you look at the scores here. Austin cuts the 1 pin, says, I'll give up a little bit of efficiency to be able to call here. Also could add the 3-4-5 Sanchoku. On Christopher, yeah, I'm absolutely getting rid of those honors. They do nothing in this hand.
Matthew having a hard time drawing upgrades. Now has 4 pairs.
There's our 3rd Dora on the left. Now Ryumen and Ishanten. And dealer's just pairing up, can't complete any shapes in that hand.
Oh,
There's
there's
Tempai on
Tenpai!
the left. Richidora 3. You just smash the button. Of course, we see
Although,
4 discarded and 2 more in hand, so only 2 left in the wall.
yeah, one 1-mon and one 4-mon.
Oh, and dealer has to start thinking about Chitoy now. Is what do you push this? And the answer is with this lead, probably not. But what's safe? And the answer is nothing. The 2-pin is one chance, but it is right by the Ricci tile. You could always throw the 8-mon, given the 2. Okay. That's actually a pretty good discard. I didn't notice immediately. Because all 4 of the 5-mon are gone, that means the only shapes a 7 will deal into are Kanchan, Penchon, Tonki, or Champon. You cannot have a Ryanman with the 5 Kabe.
Yeah, seven is a very interesting tile where you don't expect a 5 or a 6 or a 4 Kabe to eliminate possible Ryanmans for tiles, but the 7 and the 3 both can be walled off by either 4-5 for the 3 or a 5-6 for the 7.
But at this point, everyone's like, yeah, let's just get out of here. Which is going to be awkward because this is 4th place. We'll jump up to 2nd after this hand going into all last.
But an easily attainable second. There'll be 1,300 points in the middle, so... Oh, but the
There's
1-mon's gonna deal in!
Absolute disaster. Richidora 3 gets a little greedy and punished severely for it. Austin's down a deep 4th, and now all of a sudden there's a ton of separation. We're talking about everyone sitting in between 29,000 and 30,000. Well, now there's a pretty big gap for everyone.
Also, it should be noted that, let's see, well, there's a huge drop off between the B2 B3 playoff and just being B3. You'd have to get to negative 82 to end up.
No, because you'd be losing your spot. You'd still be in that
Right.
situation. You have to drop all the way down to minus 205. It's not even a consideration. Even if you have 4 genuinely god awful games and drop 160 points, it doesn't matter.
Since Austin is in that 11th spot. That makes sense.
And this hand for dealers looking pretty nice. The problem is you really wish that was an extra 5-pin instead of an extra 4.
What would the benefit of an extra 5-pin be?
Well, then you already have your pair as the 2-mon, so you'd actually be Ryama Ramen Ishanten.
Would the same be? Would you have said the same if you had had 3 4s and 1 5?
Yeah, same thing.
Okay, I was just curious why you chose the 5-pin instead of the 4, but that makes sense.
Because I saw one on the screen. In my head, I'd stuck it in the hand. It's like, no, that's not how this works, unfortunately.
What, you can't just pull from other people's discards?
Well, you can, but you usually have to say the word pwn. It has to be right after it's discarded.
I was
Or
playing Rummy
occasionally.
the other day, and I accidentally said pwn when I picked up to make a triple in my hand, and I felt pretty silly.
I think we're having stream issues on our end. Oh, there it goes. We see, there's the refresh. Okay, now I can see what's going on again. Dealer's hand hasn't budged. You see a whole bunch of Sumagiri. Hand on the right's getting really close. It's Ishanten. Hand across is going for Chitoy, and hand on the left is going for Itsu.
Ooh, and that's a good Chitoy upgrade there for Christopher. Keeping the Haku and the Chun both once cut in hand, those are very nice tiles to reach you for on Chitoy, though we do have Tenpai for Austin on the right. That's waiting on the 8-mon only to fill in the Kanchan.
Interesting choice. Throws the east back instead of forcing the 1, just folding here. So that makes sense. Could have taken the Tempai with the Champon on east and 3-mon, but figuring there's no reason to fight here, and I agree.
Yeah,
with
Well,
last
there's Tempai for dealer, and you just have to fight it. You don't have any value, but you probably just have to fight it here. There is only one 4-pin left, and it would be Ricci Nomi. The expensive hand is the one on the right for Ricci Dora 2. Waiting on that 8 mon, and there is one left. So 1 versus 1.
If you had these 6-0 in hand rather than the 1-pin when you entered Tenpai for Garrick here, oh, but the 5-pin comes out. It's Genputsu to the original Ricci.
Well, you'd generally rather deal into the person that'll end the game for you, but instead we have another hand as dealer wins the hand. Oh my goodness, look at this hand. East Yakuai pair, South Yakuai pair, probable Honitsu suit and Dora. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah,
And
just
can
selling
currently
out
accept the
already.
Dora.
Oh my.
Oh, and another Yakuai.
Wow. And another
I was gonna
call
say.
taking the Ishan 10. I don't even think we have to go over the other hands. Nothing's relevant. Dealer is Tenpai for Mongon, and it might come out right here, but I think the 1-pin comes out first.
Yeah, well, the 8-mon attaches to the 6-mon, so with the 8-mon being Dora, I mean,
Yeah,
and
you're
you can.
perfectly fine just going for the Tanya here. Tanya Dora 1, but you'd like so much more value here.
Oh,
Ooh, do you
good
get
switch to
super
Toy Toy.
greedy? I would not have done that simply because the 7-mon is already Dora indicator, but I can see the thinking here. This is so greedy, though. We'll
Well,
see.
the South too. It's
It's a
gonna be really.
Yakuhai as well.
It's going to be really hard for anybody to use a single South in hand unless they end up on a Tonki weight. So you're kind of challenging people like, hey, either force yourself to have this Yakuhai Tonki or deal into me, please.
Well, it would be Hanemon on either out. And the thinking here is, how do I defend against this? That pawn tells me absolutely nothing. You don't think it's necessarily Honitsu. You're thinking it's probably a Toy. The fact that it's both is kind of scary.
Oh, and it just draws this out
immediately.
Wow.
And there's a Hanemon, and that's a brand new switch on first place, knocking Christopher under 30K, Matthew back down to 33, and Austin just suffering again. And Dealer has another pretty good starting hand here. All the shapes look pretty fixed. Of course, you pull out a 1-mon Dora and a 3-mon, complete that shape. On the right, we have Pinfu, maybe Itsu. Across the way, well, those shapes aren't great. But Kanchan, and floaters, not even that good. On the left, we have possible Honitsu.
Oh, that tune's a great pull in for Matthew.
All this, you go. Yeah, you're just going for the Honitsu. It's just going to be a little bit more value than regular, but than any sort of regular hand. And you're not catching first here unless something very strange happens. But
and Garrett could call this for Ishan 10.
Ooh, this is a beautiful Ishan 10.
Ooh, discards the 8-so. Is that what you have discarded there?
No, I'd have thrown the 8-pin instead, but probably thinking there's this type of situation. If you draw the 7-pin, it is actually Tenpai now, but I wouldn't even like this Tenpai. The other thing with the 8-so is one's discarded, so it would have been very hard to pull it in. But we're going to see a call here for Tenpai. Waiting on 8-pin, 9-pin for South Dora.
Oh, and now we have the pay
Tonki on the left. And a Chinitsu play on the right for Austin. Sitting at 12,300, you have to get greedy for sure. I believe that would have been a 2-3-pin weight if there had been a switch there, but instead 6-on pay donkey. Oh, there's the 9-pin.
Oh boy. Well, this could help out Austin.
Yeah, brings Christopher back within range. The problem for Austin is you're running out of games, and you know you're going to need to get to 140 at least. So it's probably not making that much of a difference. And you're only going to have two more games after this. It's not going to be played today, but it's going to be really awkward to use. Now, dealer here has a bunch of pairs. We have 3, 4, 5 Sanchoku. On the right, we have probable Tanyao, distant Sanchoku. I think you just take anything you can get, especially with the scores as they are. Across the way, Hatsu pair, maybe a 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4 Sanchoku, possible Chanta, but unlikely. On the left, a Shaw Anko, but the rest of the shapes are terrible. So it feels like another dealer hand.
They've all felt like dealer hands recently. Although,
It is Ishan 10 for Chitoy.
would you have
I'd
kept
have,
the 5-mon?
I'd absolutely cut the 6-10, setting up the later Suji trap. And there's the backfire in the 8, so. The thing is, if you draw 5-10 and try to turn this into a regular hand, it's not a huge upgrade, but you can still always cut the 1-pin, 1-pin.
Well, then you'd also have Tanyao, yeah. We have the Hatsu closed in Christopher's hand, but not much else going on. Austin needs to get a Mongon Sumo to get out of last place here.
And there goes the 6-pin. So kind of floating the option. Of course, if you draw in Door, you're like, okay, we'll go standard hand. And if not, you can always just end up with the cheat toy anyway. You haven't given much up. Yeah, Austin sitting in Ishan 10. And the rest of the hands still need work. Well, now we see a lot of option across the way. Takes a Chitoy Ishan 10. I think you'd want more from this, though. Oh, I just call that. Call the Dora.
The problem is you really need Mongon.
Well, your play would be Chanta, Hatsu, Dora 2. I'm cutting the 3-mon, 3-mon.
Well, you could only really cut
I guess
one.
the issue is the 1, so is kind of dying. So that makes more sense.
Right.
Well, okay, there you go.
Oh,
Now
that
Tempai.
works.
1
This would be Chitoy, Rishi Chitoy only waiting on 1-mon, which is dead. This is absolutely a mistake.
Wow.
This is not looking out at the pond and seeing how many are left, but this is obviously not going to work. I think we're going to see a pursuit on the right here once it gets to Tempai. Because, of course, Austin has nothing to lose here. Oh, I strongly disagree with this. You're absolutely pushing that 1-pin, especially against that pond. Why would you be playing around? Yeah, this should be Tempai, I believe. No, it wouldn't still be Tempai. It'd be a 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. So it gets back to Ishan 10.
Yeah, these pin shapes are kind of awkward.
We know we're not going to see a win by Christopher here. The big question, to me anyway, is will Austin or Matthew get to Tempai? And, oh, wait, hold on. Could have taken Tempai throwing the Forso there on the left. But decides not to, give up the 1,000 points, secure second over 30,000, and Garrick with another big win.
Yeah, Garrett creating some distance between himself and the playoff, which is fantastic. Actually, in first in Pool A now. Although there is no particular benefit to being in first as opposed to second, third, or fourth, really, other than, it just feels nice.
Yeah, Austin's probably out at this point. Christopher and Matthew are fighting for the last B1 playoff spot, and Garrick looks reasonably safe here. Of course, 2 force could always change that, But I think next we're going to head to the A1 match that's already in progress because that game went a long time.
A lot of repeats and a lot of exhaustive draws, really, or close to exhaustive draws.
Yeah, they went deep in the wall so many times there.
Uh, at this next table, we will be seeing Max, Lucas, Jonathan, and Antoine.
And they are in East 4. This is the last game of their session. They completed 3 the last time they played, couldn't finish the last one. Said, well, if we can go all 4, we'll do it, and tired out, which happens. But of course, Jonathan is a substitute. Gimmick or Huang is playing to try and take over the lead in the division. LPY is in the slight positives, looking to hold on there.
Home.
And Lucas or Navitas is sitting in a demotion slot looking to get out. We have Tempai here right in front of us for Light Pink Yoshi. This will be Richi Ipeko waiting on the Dora. So Richi Ipeko Dora.
Technically a Suji trap, but a Suji trap on the Richi tile for the Dora, not particularly trustworthy.
Yeah, a little suspect here.
A gimmick looks like he might build towards like Suanko Tonki waiting on the Dora at this point, discarding the one piece.
Giving it up. Yeah. And we're seeing Jonathan try and push at least a little bit into this. Figuring the pawn gives 0 information, but you might as well. That is dealer. You obviously are incentivized to push. Now Tempai waiting on 5-8 so, which is actually a terrible weight. There is 1 left. 1-8 so, and that's it.
Although again, Jonathan does not realize that. It is a terrible weight from our perspective, a pretty good weight from Jonathan's perspective.
But 1 versus 2, of course, the dealer here has the double east and the Haku, so lots of value. And he's now looking at the 6-0, thinking, oh, I should have had the other weight. And there's a Dora pull in across the way, so it's now 1 versus 1. Ooh, if Haku comes out, do you con it? Oh, and another 6-0. Now, the interesting thing is this may make the 8s a little safer, so they may get pushed now. But as long as they're safe tiles, you're going to take those for sure. And this would be a 7,700 if dealer wins this hand.
Sumo.
You have the extra. Oh, there's the Sumo! 7,800 with the double East and White Dragon and the Richi stick. And Jonathan gets back over 20K. And we move to East 4-1. Dealer again has a Yakuhai double East pair. Probably just calling and going. Interesting thing here is going to be the Haku Dora, which we see 2 of for Lucas on the left. On the right, we have maybe a 5-6-7 Sanshoku building up. Across the way, we have decent amount of pairs, but just feels pretty slow for Gimmick. On the left, as mentioned earlier, we have a Haku pair, which is Dora. Trying to call that, go for the Yakuhai Mangan.
And Jonathan's shapes just keep getting better here. I mean, a Ryan Khan and a San Minchan, and you have the East, which as soon as someone discards it, I imagine you'd probably call that.
Home.
And there is the call of the East. Dealer is not quite East on 10, looking for a head mostly. And there you're going to see a Chi. Of course, you cut the 1 here. You're looking to see if you can add Sanshoku, which would be extra value. Of course, you pair the 3 or 5 up. You're perfectly fine with that as well.
And now we have Tempai on the left for Lucas, waiting
just
on
Chi-Toi.
Yep, for the 3-peen. Going Dama for Chi-Toi Dora 2.
Oh, and this 3 is actually a really good play because of, ooh, interesting choice. Okay, Jonathan does stick with the greed. The issue here is if the 4 so comes out, that 7 pin's probably getting discarded. Oh, I think oh, that's Furryton. You can't take that weight.
Well, now do you? Well, no, two pay have already been discarded.
One by you. All 3 have been.
Oh, right. I always miss the first discard for some reason.
Well, that's probably what's happening. If you're thinking about it, trying to count the 3, we'll see if he notices the last one.
Might also just be a slight freeze on our end. Because I do believe we have run out of the amount of time Tenho gives you there.
So this should have discarded already. Yeah, there's the refresh screen. Still Dama waiting on 7 pin. We do see Tempai for dealer now switched, waiting on the 5 so.
Yeah, drew into the other side of the San Minchan and just had to take Tempai.
Interesting, not waiting on the 1 so Tonki, on the 1 man Tonki, because that seems like a pretty good weight given these discard pools.
Oh, and there's
Oh, yeah, there's a backfire. I mean, I was thinking about that. You could just reach you the 7 pin, figuring the 9 pin's a pretty good weight and would have been Ipatsumo, but it said still Dama.
it
3
is
pin doesn't do anything for this hand, though, so that'll get thrown back.
yeah, it is kind of late to call Ricci for the Chitoi here, since you really want someone to deal into you. Calling Ricci and having people Mawashi against you even when you don't have a Suji trap set up.
No, and you have Dora. I'm much less worried about it, honestly.
Well, if you don't win the hand, you don't get any of your Doras. I feel like part of the drawback here.
Well, there's 1 7 pin and 0 5 so left. Nope, that's not it. Oh! Does it get pushed? We see the switch? Does switch and dodges the Dama Mangan on Hote. Nice play there for Jonathan. Was that would have been Mangan just like that.
Would it have
Gets it
been
easy.
Mangon? Wouldn't it have just been
Chitoi Dora
6400?
2 Hote.
Oh, Hote, because it was the final. It was the final discard, right?
Yeah, that would have been full Mungon there. Doesn't get a great hand here. You have 2 Penchons, maybe a distant shift for Junchan, but you have that 5-6 pin, so probably unlikely. Maybe Chanta, but again, just looking for anything here. Maybe even a 7-8-9 Sanjuku. Now on the right, we see pin food type shapes. We mean Itsu and Pin across the way. Similarly, a possible 1-2-3 Sanshuku, but the hand just feels pretty bad. And on the left, we see again a mediocre hand. None of these hands are good. None of them.
I don't know that you wouldn't call that hand on the right good.
No. I see a bunch of pin tiles that are kind of nice, but I also see a Kanchan and a floating 2-5 and an East now. So maybe it's trying to brute force it into Chinitsu because it's such a bad hand to start with. Figuring that Chinitsu is about as fast as a normal hand, even though it's still a long way off. Okay, now you could turn it into maybe 4-5-6 Sanjuku. Then it would be some value. But the question is, how does hand? Okay, now you're definitely thinking for that Sanjuku is how do you get it? Oh wow, that's so greedy. I was thinking you cut the 6 pin there, but instead no, it just goes for the
I mean,
full
the
sell up.
four the 4-6 was your worst shape. That made you
Well,
Ishanten.
there you go. This will be Ricci, Pinfu, Ipeco. No, not Ipeco.
Yeah, not Ricci Pinfu Dora 2.
Dora 2. It's the Dora 2. That's the thinking. All right. With the 3-6, which there are 5 out, so 3 left in the wall. And
Yeah,
especially
there's gonna
see
be a
that many Mon tiles, you're thinking it's probably not in Mon. The So are on the outside, so it could be in So, but it really does look like Pin. And if you saw this
Gee.
hand, you'd be like, oh, maybe that's why there are no Pin tiles in the discards. We see a call for Tempai across the way for Tanyo and possible Sanchiku on the Gibitsu 2 So, but there's only one left. Also be waiting on the 5 So, there are two of those left. And this 3 So in Jonathan's hand is getting very tempting. Will they have discipline to just fold? Okay, does. Good play there by Jonathan. Cutting the Shaw, figuring, okay, we'll take 2 turns. They just don't know how to open the hand. And this hand honestly isn't worth fighting for. We'll feel a little bit of regret here, but it was the right play.
well, you could actually. I mean, if you draw the 4 pin or 7 pin, you could end up
相撲
3 so Tonki and still be
The
fine. But there's
Sumo
this
Orisi Sumo
big-
Pin Fudora 2. And that will be
One
the Mon
Ura.
that doesn't hit the Aura, but that's enough to jump into second place as we move to South round. Now, something we didn't talk about coming into this is we got in here late, and Lucas obviously took control of this table, and Lucas desperately needed it, sitting at minus 84.9. With a good game here is going to be up near that jumble with Bishan, Simon, and me getting pretty close. But we're in South 1, and Dealer has a beautiful starting hand here. Ricci, Pinfu, Tanyao, Dora. Of course, unlikely to get the Tanyao. You'd need a 2 completed shapes with the 4 and the 7 Mon. But hey, there's potential. On the right, we have Pinfu, maybe a distant
Gee.
Sanshoku, but just feels like a Ricci type hand. Across the way, we see a call, the 1, 2, 3, so probably a Chanta Hatsu. And on the left, we have a 1, 2, 3 Sanshoku that's not that far away, honestly, but you have the
Gee.
5-pin Anko, so you're not going to get Junchan or Chanta from it as well. Tempai across the way, waiting on 1 pin, 4 pin. 1 pin would be Chanta, but even without it, it's still a Yaku with the Hatsu.
If you were
Sumo.
Yoshi here and a 4 mon came, oh, there it is, the sumo for the Chanta.
Well, just Sumo. And with the Sumo, the extra foo from the Yakuai pair and the Anko will be the full 2,700. I move to South 2. And Huang has a pretty good starting hand here. Tanyao, maybe Peiko. Of course, if you pull in the 3 4 So, would be really nice, especially given the 3 So is Dora. On the right, we have a Haku pair, but the rest of these shapes aren't that great. Maybe you brute force Nitsu out of this. Across the way, we have, again, not great shapes. Penchan, 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 and a bunch of floaters. He's not feeling good. And on the left, I don't know, Kokushi? That seems to be the play here. That hand's another really bad one. Maybe a distant Honitsu and So.
Only 8 unique terminals and honors, and I triple counted this time, so I hope that's right.
Well, it's because you have those pairs, which throws everything off. But you keep drawing tiles, you're going to think about it. The issue, of course, is when you throw that Dora. Because that's your commitment point.
It's interesting. You could also just try and
Just go
bluff
now.
it.
Yeah, I
Although,
agree with it. Yeah, you just go for it. When you draw that 1 Mon, you're thinking this is it.
yeah, we got 10 now.
Looking for the 1 pin, the 1 So, and
Gee.
the South. And kind of starts scaring the rest of the table. When you see that Dora discard and an obvious Kokushi, the rest of the players here go, yeah, this isn't what I signed up for. So you see Huang taking the Ishan 10 here.
Gee.
Ooh, nice call. Nice tile there for Lucas. Takes the
Gee.
wider Ishan 10, looking to pull in Dora. I think I'd agreed for the Honitsu. And yeah, there's a bit of a backfire, because now what have you done to this hand? Not much.
Gee.
There's going to be Tempai for Huang waiting on 3 Mon, 6 So. There is 1 of each left. Across the way, we see a call of the 6 pin. Probably is going for open 6, 7, 8 Sanshoku. Ooh, and there's another draw on the 1 So on the left. We have
Ishan
Tempai on
10.
the right here. Waiting on the force Otanki will be trying to switch to something in pin now. Now that's obviously a fold from Jonathan here. Oh, there's Tempai on the right on the 1-4 pin.
If you're everyone else and you see 9 East, 9 1 discarded, how are you feeling? Does this tune come out of your hand?
Well, I'm honestly confused. And okay, throws the 1-10. There's only one left at this point. So that's an interesting tile. Whoever draws it then knows the Kokushi is dead.
Well, you don't know that it's dead, because if the Kokushi's Tenpai, the 1P would be the obvious deal in.
Well, I'll put it this way: it's never leaving my hand.
Right, well, but that kills your hand as well. If the Kokushi kills someone else's hand, I feel
Yeah.
like it's still done something.
Yeah, we did see a switch from Huang to the 5-so. And ooh, now we have a Dora Tonki. Chun comes out. That's going
Oh,
to come out right. Oh, nice dodge. Sees that Chun switch and goes, hey, wait a second. Of course, if you get to Tempai, it's going to come out, but the 6-mon will come out first.
actually folding the Kokushi entirely now.
Yeah, when you draw that Dora this late against a call, 2 calls, and 3 calls, you're like, yeah, I think the dream's dead. There's this Tempai. Wait, no, it's not. That's an 8, not a 7. Never mind. Uh-oh.
Oh no!
Deals
Deals
in
into
to
gimmick.
the Tanya Nomi. A Tanya will end it all, but 1,500 is enough to get it to second place in South 2-1. It gets a great starting hand here. You just cut the 6-pin pair. Oh, it just goes fast. Doesn't go greedy. I'd have cut the 5-mon first and then kind of seen what happened with the rest of the hand. If I draw, say, 8-pin, then yeah, we're just selling out for the
Yeet.
Janta Sanshku. But
Oh
instead, you can just
wow!
do this. We end up in the same place anyway. Ricci Hatsu waiting on 1-mon 6-pin for just the Ricci Hatsu. Of course, you'll get extra foo on the sumo either way. We see a call across the way, figuring, well, this hand isn't going anywhere anyway. I can't read anything into what the dealer's doing. I mean, you don't have any information. That's oftentimes the correct play, but you give up 2 safe tiles. Although when you're sitting at 18,800, it's certainly understandable to be pushing a bit.
Well, especially since it doesn't take much to get even into second here.
And then there's one of those 1-mon. Of course, the 6-pin is dead. So right now there is 1 6-pin left. Unless it comes out from someone's hand. Ooh, I think you just cut the 5-mon here. Yeah. And the 2s and 3s are all starting to get discarded. That 1-mon's going to be very isolated.
Well, but Yoshi is folding. That Tumon worked with the hand, so I don't see Yoshi dealing in here.
Yeah, but all those 2s and 3s are getting discarded, so it could come out. Because it's starting to look safe. You're getting closer to those Kabes building up.
Has
3
safe
2-mon
tiles for now.
discarded and 2 3. It's double 1 chance. Like, it looks pretty safe. And we see Jonathan holding onto the Hatsu going, wait, why haven't I seen any at this point? Something weird's going on.
Gong.
And
Yeah,
there's
there
the
it
1
is.
1, as I mentioned, the double 1 chance. So deals into Ricci Hatsu. Do get the extra foo because of the Onko and the terminal set. So that's enough to get to 29,000. We move to South 2-2. And Dio has a pretty good starting hand here. Not that far off from Tenpai. Not much value yet. Maybe a 79 Sanshku, but you'll take what you can get, especially considering 9-pins Dora. On the right, we see few pairs, Shaw pair, it's just Yakuhai. You have that Dora, so of course 7-pin would really help the hand. Across the way, I have the Hatsu pair, as one's drawn in by Lucas, so pretty good chance that comes out. Just probably going Honitsu here, although yeah, they do have that Dora, so if the Dora pairs up, doesn't matter which shape you go in. Also potentially Cheeto, and on the left, we have a Pay pair and decent shapes as well. You just have an annoying 2, 4, 6, 8 mon shape. But that'll fix that problem nicely. Pulling in the 7 mon and now just says a 2, 4, which are both likely to end up cut anyway. The fastest hand here is clearly Max's on the left. You probably call the pay and go. You just want more value. But you absolutely don't want to take a fourth here. And Huang is now Ishan 10 for Tanyao, maybe Sananko.
Although I assume you would still take a pawn if one comes up.
Oh, interesting. The pay is passed by Max this time. Looking for more value here.
Boom.
Well, here's when you find out. Does just take the tempi, waiting on 3 so, 5 so. There are 3 left in the wall. Would just be Tanyao only.
Although Tanyao only is enough to get over 30k.
It's still just South 2, but it's
Boom.
always better to be over 30k, especially relatively early. Now we see Jonathan
Jonathan
selling out. Yeah, absolutely going for the Honitsu here. And he is Ishan 10, but it'd just be Bakahon at this point.
not anymore.
Or, well, it's still Ishan 10, but a ridiculously wide Ishan 10.
And also not Bakahon anymore. The Hatsu will make that a much more valuable Honitsu.
Right.
Specifically twice as valuable if we wanted to be pedantic.
Who, me? Would I ever do anything like that? But we're still waiting on that 3 so and 5 so. And there's the first one finally drawn, but it fits into Lucas's hand, like pretty well, actually. So, okay, we're seeing a fold. And unfortunate for Jonathan, throws the 1 mon and draws another one right back.
Even with both in hand,
Literally
still
the
would not have been
only-
any closer to Tempai.
Literally the only mon tile that does not complete this shape. We might see 3 so come out on the left here. Instead, feel a little bit more like a fold. Dealer is very suspicious of this pawn.
Each.
You figure Pin are looking pretty safe. It sure looks like Tanya. But on the right, we have Tempai and a Ricci for Ricci Nomi, waiting on 3 so. 3 so would deal into double road, and it might come out here, but Max isn't going to throw it. So instead, there are 0 outs left. The only winning tile is the 5 so. There is 1 left, and there it is! Gets the 700 all plus the Ricci stick in the Homba, and Huang is now at 32,700 and feel a little more comfortable than a few hands ago.
Yeah, I'm sure part of the reason for the Ricci stick from Lucas there is if you're trying to get out of the hole you are currently in, you need to get to negative 31.9 is your goal. So you need 43 points. And you're not going to get that unless you also get the plus 20 UMA. So at least not in one game. So keeping Gimmick underneath 30k, there's a lot of value for Lucas there.
Oh yeah, and normally the Ricci Nomi's terrible. But you're also trying to shut down Gimmick. You're also really trying to push Huang under 30,000 because they give you an extra 5 points. But anyway, look at these hands too. As a pin fu hand, also Dora here with the 8 pin. Although it's currently in a pen chun, you'll have to pair it up and call for Tanya. On the right, we have pin fu type hand as well. Also Ryanman Ishan 10 with a Dora there. Across the way, we see a Chun pair. And now I believe Ishan 10. No, not quite Ishan 10. Ryanshan 10. You have that Penchan in Mon. And on the left, we have possible Itsu in So. And otherwise, potentially a 79 Sanshku, but not looking that likely. Because you have the extra floating 9 pin. You have a floating 5, doesn't connect to the 7-8. So lots of ways that hand can go, but it feels a little slower than it looks.
Yeah, those poor discards too. I mean, Sumo Gearing 4-pin, 5-pin, 6-pin.
Has a decision to make now. Do you just throw the 9 pin and give up on the Dora completely? Decided to keep the option open. The interesting thing about this is if you end up on a Champone with, say, a 7 mon and a 1 pin weight, the chances of anyone believing 1 pin is your weight is roughly zero.
Yeah, the one pin does look pretty safe when you see. I mean, it'd be both Sotogawa and Suji. 5mon's a nice draw for Gimmick here.
Yeah, it says Ishan 10. Would love to call the East.
The problem is Luke is holding on to the other two.
Yeah, they're never coming out here unless there's a fold later.
Yeah, because that works for Pinfu.
We have an Ishan 10 across the way, and I bet this gets called. No, it doesn't. Okay, using that as the pair. Really doesn't want to throw the door. I can't really blame him with that score.
Eat.
Oh, there's the Tempai. It's an easy Ricci. Ricci's
Eat.
on 4mon tone. Of course, the tone is on the right and is now completely locked in. It is a Ricci Pinfu on 4 7mon. So both waiting on the 4mon, and Luke is also waiting on the 7mon. The 4mon has 2 left in the wall. The 7mon has 0. So it's a question of who gets it first.
Gonna be interesting to see. Oh,
Well,
this
there's
4-mon.
one of them. Yeah. Okay. So now just one left.
It's gonna be really interesting to see how Max dodges
Sumo.
around this here.
No, there's the sumo on the right, and Lucas pulls in Ricci, sumo, Binfudora. The last winning tile on the wall, and that will not gimmick under 30,000. And Lucas extends his lead towards 60,000.
Which,
I bet.
as it stands, is enough to get totally out of the demotion zone.
Yeah, it'd be a huge win. But look at this hand, you see a whole bunch of pairs and not much else. In fact, only 3 pairs. So it's even worse than I thought it was. Maybe you can turn into a Tanya if you start calling. Maybe connect to that 4-so or the 3-so door. You get something, but pretty bad. On the right, a much better hand with the double South Yakuhai, the Chun Yakuhai
Pump.
pair, and a Penchon, which will need the 3-so Dora to fill in. Across the way, we have a
Pump.
Haku pair. Decent shapes there as well. Maybe just going toy with this hand. That seems to be the direction. Of course, if you just end up with a cheaper hand, I guess you'd have to take it. And on the left, we have a Chun pair. Switching Mochi Mochi on the Chun. And that is
Pump.
close to a good hand with a 3 Dora. So you're thinking you're going to open and be great with his hand, but it's just going to be completely locked up because it's never, ever coming out of Jonathan's hand. We have Tempai across the way waiting on 8-so. Would just be Haku only.
But that's still third place for Max, so you certainly aren't turning down that Tempai.
Plus, of course, if you can call the 8mon, you can choose your Tonki. We now have Tempai on the left for no Yaku. I actually disagree with the switch from Max across the way. The 5-so is actually dead. So switching to a 5-8 from an 8-weight doesn't actually do you any good and will lose you Fu. Probably it's one of those things that's done instinctually, not looking at the board, but actually is the wrong play and will be caught in the logs. And oh no! Oh, punished immediately for it.
Would the Fu have added anything there?
Let's see. 6, 4. No, I wouldn't have added anything here. But the 6, 7 versus a 9, I'm always going to prefer drawing to the 9, especially when I'm looking for a toy upgrade.
Right. Or if it has to end up being your Tonki.
Right. So you're going to have 2 players going, where are the Chun? Well, could see a con here. And Jonathan decides not to. I agree with this. The hand's so far off. I might have just thrown the 8mon right now rather than float. Ooh, we have K10 for dealer. Looking to pull in one of those 6-so and make it into a Tanyao. But for right now, no Yaku. We have 2 Tempai hands without a Yaku.
which is not something we see very often in A1, although K10 is something that you expect.
Well, you're going to see it a lot late in hands, but usually not this early. If you're getting towards like 15 draws now, you'd start expecting a lot more. What?
강,
What? Why don't you pawn that 7 pin and just take Tempai? There's the Daiminkan across the way. Deals the 6, which deals into the no Yaku hand from the dealer. I don't understand how Huang's playing this at all. Probably got scared at that 6 pin and just wouldn't throw. But I'd have just called and thrown and taken the K10. You're actually Tempai waiting on that 7 Manchun, so it'd be Atozuke. A dead one, but you don't know that. Ooh, and there's the upgrade across the way for Toy Toy.
롬,
And there it
deals
comes out immediately!
Toy Toy, Haku, doesn't get any extra food from the Daiminkan, but that's a huge hand.
Yeah, and
Gets
Max,
out of
not the
fourth and
only.
brings Max out of fourth and in striking range of second.
And that was actually a massive win for Lucas because before, with Gimmick at 2,800 or 28,000, it's very, very easy for him to get above 30K. Now, it's the getting that plus 20 UMA is looking a lot more attainable.
Yeah, and we're in all last year. Dealer has, ooh, nice little Ishun 10, headless Ishun 10. So definitely looking pretty fast. And right, we have a nice fill in as well. That's also Ishun 10, who called the Haku and waiting on the force. So across the way, we have a pair of the South Yaku High. And especially given the score, you're just taking anything at this point. And the hand on the left is, again, pretty good hand, no value though.
리치,
Ooh, interesting choice. Jonathan does not take the Ricci waiting on the 3 pin. This is something I've seen from a lot of Jonathan's games. He will not take bad weights, and
And
I think this may end up coming to bite him.
and we have a Ricci from Max, and this is Ricci only on the 2 pin, but on the 5 pin would be Ricci Sanshoku.
Oh, and there's the 3. Yeah, Jonathan would not take the bad shape Ricci, and I think this 2 pin is just going to come out. Once any sort of upgrade happens, the 2's
롬,
it's definitely coming out here. Oh, there it is. Instead from Gimmick, a direct hit. Any aura, and the aura will change second place. I think it would have been 200 short otherwise, but that gives Max a nice little minus 6.6 and instead stays in a relatively safe plus 20 overall. But the big winner at this table is Lucas with a plus 49.3 and will be moving right into that pack with Bishan and Simon. And of course, second is Max with that minus 6.6. As mentioned, stays around plus 20. Gimmick with a disappointing third, considering where the game was in South 3, but ends up at minus 14 and is still in completely safe, but much less out of the in first place situation. We'll definitely have plenty of options next session. And Jonathan taking the fourth here. Of course, the substitute, the ranking doesn't matter as much, but it will be used to determine who is in the snake ladder where.
Yeah, and for reference, in the standings currently, so that you know how things are shifting for that snake ladder, Jonathan is currently 14th. So just
But
below Lucas.
yes, and this is actually very interesting for the rest of the table because that means you have June, who's basically demoted at this point, Kaz, who's in deep trouble. But after that, who are the other two that are going down? It could be anyone on that list. Probably starting as high as Dustin, even,
Right.
given there's a
Dustin
full
was the
session
cutoff I
coming
was
up
going to
left.
make as well.
Yeah. Oliver's pretty safe here. I mean, especially given Oliver's deal-in rate, which, as I recall, is decent. No,
You
not
see
this
here is
season. Really good
13.3.
last season was really low. This season a lot higher. So I guess it's possible. You're talking a pretty big buffer there. And Dustin specifically is known for wild swings.
Well,
But
and you
yeah,
mentioned
it's
Oliver's deal-in rate. It's worth pointing out Oliver's deal-in rate is above the A1 average, but has the lowest deal in average value. So that 13.3% means a whole lot less when you're only dealing into two Han hands.
Yes, that 2904 deal at average is kind of crazy. But the issue here is who's getting demoted, and everyone in A1 has been super tough. And honestly, there are so many people. It's all going to come down to that last session.
Yeah,
But
A1 is going to be absolutely bonkers when it gets to that final six session.
that's about it. I think there is another game, but it would be starting in 37 minutes. So we're either going to pause and then discuss whether we're coming back later. On way, are you going to stay up late?
I'm down to stay up late. I'm feeling it. I've been streaming for like 29 hours or so, but I've
Well,
got
we'll give
drinks.
you half an hour for your adrenaline to come back down, and then we'll start back up. So I think we're going to take an extended break here. What is the next game? Is it a B1 as I recall? I'd have to look it up.
It is B1, yes. It is B1. Specifically, the players are Rachel, Ryan, Zlong, and Ash.
Yeah, that should be a very interesting game, especially with Zlong and Rachel. They're very aggressive players. So anyway, for us, we're going to take a 35-minute break or so before we jump into that. And this is Korak along with Ennui. Have a good break. We'll see you in a bit. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We've had our nice little break, and now we have a B1 matchup between Zlong, Rachel, Ryan, and Ash. This is Korak along with Ennui. How you hanging out, Ennui?
Yes, I am. I've got myself more refreshments, and I am totally good to go.
You're completely buzzed. Well, let's see how this goes. They have 4 games. I don't think we're going to go the whole 4 games. I haven't seen if they're going to do 4, but we'll just see how this turns out. Of course, we look at the standings. B1 is a bunch of promotions because A2 is being expanded. So that means they get 8 promotion slots in B1. Of course, you have a couple substitutes, so you don't even need to necessarily be in the top 8. The top 9 will be sufficient, but as you can see from this list, Kevin and Sylvie are listed at the bottom as their standings will not count towards this. There will be 1 less demotion than expected, so instead of 5 demotions, there will be 4. And we see Ash currently in that position. Ryan is just above the bubble right now, and Rachel's looking to avoid that. So, of course, Zlong is in pretty good shape, but the others are fighting for their B1 lives. When you're in this position, how are you really feeling other than, oh God, oh God?
Well, it is kind of curious. I was just gonna say for Sylvie especially, Sylvie's score is absolutely incredible. Has a plus 180, so like really representing as a sit-in. But here we go.
Yes, we have a game here. East 1, Deal has a decent starting hand. You have a Kanchan and a Penchon. Decent shapes otherwise. Let's go for Richi Dora. On the right, we have Pinfu, maybe a Sanshoku, maybe an Ipeiko now. Lots of options. Across the way, of a Haku pair. Decent shapes otherwise, maybe a 79 Sanshoku, maybe an Ipeiko, but you have 2 Doros, so I don't think it's that important. You're just calling and looking for a pair at this point. On the left, we have, I believe that's already really close. Now it's Ishan 10. You don't really want to end on the
Boom.
7 Mon 1 So Champone, but if the draws send you there, I guess you're stuck with. Oh, great draw here with the 5. Now you can cut one of those pairs.
Oh, but
Instead,
doesn't.
cuts the 5. So it does give you the potential to reach you on the 4 and we have the Suji trapped 1 So, but there's only going to be 1 left. So I don't like the way that was done, but we do see the call on the right with the 3 Mon. Going to be very hard to get Sanjiku from that. And really, I'm not seeing the Yaku, honestly. You should be waiting for the 4-3 Mon now.
We do see Ash with a pivot on the left now has perfect Ishanten, drew in the 6 mon.
Okay, well, there is the last 3 Mon, but on the right, we see a second pair up, so it can call the 2 Mon, 4 Mon, or
Eat.
3 So for Tempai. It'll be Tanya only, but we have Ricci on the left. Does manage to draw in the 6 Mon, so can take the Pinfu, waiting on 5-8 Mon, and there are 4 left. You'll just be the Ricci Pinfu, but I mean, you'll take it here.
Boom.
Especially in the first round. Oh, and now we have the Tanyao Tenpai for Ryan on the right, waiting on the 2 mon and 3 so.
Sumo.
Yeah, it would be San
Oh,
Renko,
immediate
but
sumo!
we don't use that Yaku. We do see the Tanya Sumo for the 1100 plus the Riti stick, and that will be the first strike. Oh, we do see a disconnect showing up across the way for Zelon. We'll see if that ends up being real.
Oh,
Okay, seems to have just been a visual issue. But Deer here has a decent hand, maybe a Honroto. Definitely feeling a Honroto now. I think you just start calling. Maybe Chi Toy, but I think Toy Honroto is the way to go with this. On the right, we have the Payco shapes, but I think you're just going to use the East and maybe call for. Oh, now you have a lot of options. Actually, is already perfect Ishan 10. May end up using the East of Air or waiting Shumpon on the 6 Mon East. Across the way, we have maybe a 6-8 Sanshoku, probably Tanya. Ooh, now a Dora pair up. So actually, Ishan 10 now for Tanya Dora 2 could call it open, getting the 9-pin here. And on the left, we have decent shapes, also Ishan 10. These hands are all reasonably fast. The slowest might actually be the dealer, but this dealer hand has so much potential. On the right, though, we have already into Ricci. Ricci toned, and across the way, we have Ricci Tanya Dora 3 waiting on the 7-pin. There are 2 7-pin left, and on the right, there are 3 9 So and 2 6 So, so 3 left in the wall to complete that shape.
つも
Oh,
And
just
gets the
sumo.
9.
Okay. Riichi sumo tone. No Oradora. It does get the Riichi stick there. Pulls in the 6,000 and is in first place going into East 3. Yeah, it's really nice Tanya shapes here. Not too much else, but I mean, it's good enough. On the right, we have possible Itsu in Mon. Honestly, the rest of the shapes are kind of awkward, especially that Penchon 8 and 9 pin. Across the way, we have a Hatsu pair and decent shapes as well, but you also have a bunch of floaters. On the left, we have possible Pinfu, Ipeiko, maybe now Tanya with the Forso pull in. You're still trying to figure out what your pair is going to be, though. Well, that 5-man draw on the right, this is really starting to look like Itsu.
Yeah, and with Dora being the 7 Mon, Monzu is a great suit to get the Itsu in. Although we do have a second Dora pulled into Rachel's hand across the way.
Yeah, that's always the problem with the Itsu suit, is until you get the Dora, it always feels a little slow. Neil or Ishan 10 on the left, it'd probably just be Tanyao, but now you could add a Dora to it, so lots of potential still. Interesting on the right, throws the 1, so instead of taking the Ryankan, I'd have probably thrown the 2-mon or the 4-pin there, but we'll see if it works out.
Do you think there's a thought
Gee.
for 345 Sanshoku, or
It's possible. This could be very awkward to use. You'd be doing Tanyao and calling, and you haven't even really improved the shape that much.
a very wide Ishanten for Zilong, the dealer now?
But we have Tempai on the left on 2-pin, 3-pin for Tanyao Dora. Dora was discarded, and Sashimi says, thanks, I'll take it. And there
And
are
that's
3 of
Tenpai
those
for the
left.
dealer. This will be
Yes.
Riichi Penfu Tanyao.
Yeah. Ooh, interesting choice. I'd cut the 3 so actually.
Oh, really? Oh, to have the Sanshoku possibility?
Anshoku upgrades, yes.
The issue is you only get the Sanshoku on the 5 so, which
Well, it's Riichi Pinfu Tanya versus Riichi Tanya Sanshoku. So the average value is going to be much higher if you go for the Sanshoku. The
it
only issue is, of course, the 2 is more likely to still be in the wall than the 5. Oh, and there's the
there's the
Sumo. Riichi
Sancho.
Sumo Pinfu Tanyao. Would have gotten the Sanshoku, but if there's an aura, it's not going to matter. Okay, gets the aura, it doesn't matter. That is dealer Mungon. And we have a big lead here for Zilong. A nice little Chanta hand here. Not too much value, though. I think you're just going to call and go with it. It may just be Chanta knowing, which is kind of sad, but I'm not seeing much else here. It still is reasonably fast. On the right, we have possibly Peiko in Mon, also a Chitoi, potentially. Across the way, we have pretty standard Pinfu shapes. On the left, we have an Anko of Haku, and decent shapes elsewhere. Still for your pair, but it's not that important because you have a Yaku and a Dora. Ooh, nice fill with a Tuso.
Oh, that was interesting. Holding the 8 pin instead of the 7 so is dealer thinking about Toy Toy or Chi Toy as a possible backup option?
Yeah, that's probably the way to go. Okay, now you probably. Ooh, oh, I do not like the 8-pin there. So now you've kind of force yourself into the Chanta without any value. And you'd love to be able to figure a way to go Honitsu in any suit, but it's just not here. Oh, this would be so much more beautiful with the 8-9, 8-9, but instead you just have the pairs. Selling out on Haruto. But Haruto is a very hard Yaku to complete. Ooh, nice little fill in with the 4-pin on the left. Now Ishan 10.
Is thinking about the 1 pin, but the 2 are already cut, and dealers already cut the 2 pin. So I'm really curious. Are they pushing Kokashi now?
Oh, something I'm going to jump into is on the left. Ryan could be Tempai now, waiting on 6-9 Mon instead, but throws the Ryanman to keep the extra dragons, and will now
Yeet.
be Tempai. And which one do you wait on? Okay, waits on the 1-cut Hatsu. So that's going to look pretty safe. It may come out from dealer not too long in the future. I mean, nothing else looks safe on that 5, so I think you just throw it there.
Yeah, it's just maintaining the
Eats.
Ishanten too. Oh,
Etoy
now
on
we
the
have Tenpai.
right. Ricci Chitoy will take the 3 or the 2. There is 1 2 cut, so there goes the 2 waiting on the 3. There are 2 left. On the Hatsu, there is 1 left. But the other issue is Zealong's holding on to the remaining one. Oh! Ooh, okay. Lots of
I
options. Interesting
a,
the 3 is discarded. I definitely would push the 9 there and gone for the Chanta.
a question about Ash's hand. We see that we have the 456, 456 as well. Would you have considered dominating that Cheetoy in the hopes that you pull in a 5-pin or 8-pin?
Well, it's a little late, and you'd be pushing a 3 pin that is in the Dora, potentially accepting Dora shape. So that's the thinking here is, yes, you'd be getting a huge value upgrade, but do
Kang.
you really want to push a 3 pin into that? Well, you see a con on the right. Now, south is the new Dora.
Kang.
Ooh, and another con. Oh, this is starting to feel scary. And this will be the 2 pin. So now, if we see a win on the right, although there's only one 3 pin left now.
Dum.
Oh, 5-pin just entered Tenpai.
Dora 4 after those cons. Wow. And of course, the Ricci would have been Baimon, but perfectly happy with the Dama Animon there. And we move into East 4, and we have first place way up there, second getting pretty close. The Ricci with that big win there with the 14,000, 2 Ricci 6 and the Dama 12,000. Dealer has a pretty standard Pinfu hand, maybe Peiko. On the right, we have decent shades, but not much value. You do have a lone east wind Dora. Across the way, we have maybe Itsu and So. Awkward shapes everywhere else, though. On the left, bunch of pairs, maybe Peiko and Mon. I think we did get a stream freeze, though. Yep, there it is.
So we see that 258 Mon across the table in Toyman's hand. When as your shapes develop elsewhere in your hand, how do you discard away from that sort of shape?
Exactly like this. With the 2 mon first and the 8 mon, you're figuring the 5 is going to be more useful than either of those. If you can fill in elsewhere, you honestly wouldn't feel that bad about discarding the whole suit. But ideally, you keep one tile around just because otherwise your hand just looks too obvious you're not using anything there.
Well, this is a really nice Ishan 10 for Ash,
Yeah, still
especially if you can pull
headless.
in a
Wants to
7
draw
Mon or
over.
9 Mon.
Oh, that's a great draw with that 5. So now you can cut the. Ooh, no, I'm definitely cutting 9 mon there because that allows
Eats.
you to also end up on the Nobeton where you can choose one. But across the way, we have Tempai on the 4-7 pin for Richinomi. Of course, we see 3-7
Sumo.
pin and 2-4. Oh, there's the Ipotsumo. Richi Ipotsu Sumo.
So not just one Han, right?
Well, that's how you make 3 Han very conveniently. Doesn't hit the aura for the Mongon, but hey, that will make this very close on third. Now, as we move to South Round, Dealer has a really nice starting in here with the
Kang.
Ishaku High, which is called immediately. And the question is, can you make this into a Hanitsu, some sort of toy? You'd love more value than this. Of course, a Dora is good enough. On the right, we have a Chun pair, decent pair, maybe Hanitsu, maybe Chanta. Probably just a normal hand, though. Across the way, we see Pinfu, maybe Tanyao. Not that far off, but not much value unless you pull a Dora in right now. And on the left, we see Ishanten. No, not quite Ishanten. Very close, though. It's a really wide Ishanten because you have that 1-1-1-3 and then 2 floaters.
We do have Ishan 10 for Zilong across the table, though.
Yes, you'd like to pull in the 6, so really fill in that shape. But honestly, the 3 mon isn't great anyway. But Richie Tanya, I mean, you're going to take it. Maybe even Dama, just considering the lead.
Would you consider? Oh, there's the 6-0.
Well, now we're going to find out. The question is, do you Dama? Do you throw the 2 4 mon? There are all sorts of choices you can make here.
I mean, you could.
リーチ
Hmm.
Just goes ahead and takes the Richie. This will be Richie Tanya waiting on 3 mon. There is 1 in the hand of the left and 3 in the wall.
I do wonder about staying Ishanten and discarding the pair of 3-so.
Oh.
And then you could
Boom.
still get Pinfu with Dora acceptance. If you
Well,
are
if
able
you'd
to
have
pull the
kept the
3
3
mon.
so and cut the 2-4, now you could be 3-sided Tempai. But instead, it's waiting on that 3, which is now not going to come out of the hand of the left. I don't see any reason for it to. Dealer is Tempai just for the 1500 on the 3-6-0, which 3 is Gimbutsu, so may come out. Other than
And
that, we see all the 3s are dead at this point.
yeah, and we do see that Rachel is entirely willing to just push into this Ricci. Has already discarded the 5-peen.
Yeah, lots of odds. You just take the slightly better rate, or at least you think it's slightly better rate. This is always what happens if, unfortunately, the person you're fighting against is using your weights as their pair.
Oh,
Oh,
now
and
there's
there's a
2
3 mon.
mon.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to fit it in. Throws the 6, so may see it come
Throw,
out fairly soon.
throws the Dora. Do we see 4-7 mon? We do. So that's one side. Was the 6 mon totally
We have
Kabe though?
Tempai on the left.
1
Do you take the Peiko? Do you take the... Ooh, okay. Ooh, okay. Takes the Shampone on 3 mon 9 so. And there's a 3 mon. This would deal into double Roan if it's pushed.
4
And
Oh,
it
it
does! Ricci Tanya, Oishini Aura. Nope, no Aura. We know there won't be any Aura on the left either, but it's going to be Ricci Apatsu. Now, of course, because there is a double Roan, all the 6 go to the first person to the right of the person that dealt in. So Zilong picks up the extra 2,000 that way. Moving to South 2. Do have a pretty nice starting end here. Of course, love to pull in a 6-pin door. You do have a bunch of extra floating honors. But of course, finding those Yakuai pair up, that's even better. On the right, we have Pinfu. Not much else. Maybe not even Pinfu because you have 2 pairs. Love to pull in that 7 so and complete that shape. And they are looking pretty good. Across the way, that's definitely a Pinfu hand. Going to be already Ishanten for Ricci Pinfu Dora on the left. Maybe a Junchan? Hard to get its value otherwise. I think the hand to watch is the one across from us, which is
There's Tempai.
Ryan's. Yeah, there's Tempai. You're just going to take the Ricci
Yeet.
Pinfu Dora every time. Thinks about it for a second. Do you want the champagne? The answer is no, this is worth more. So waiting on the 4-7, there are 2 7s and 3 4s visible, so 3 left in the wall.
Sometimes you just have to take a second when the button pops up to make sure you don't click the wrong button.
That can definitely happen. One of the things we've seen is a lot of people, especially in the US, aren't as used to playing on Tenho. So you don't have options to just take back your Ricci if you go, oops. And dealers seem to be working around this, may be able to get back to towards Tempai, but you have an ugly 3-5-7-9 mon.
Yeah, I mean, even the 9-peen, I wouldn't have felt very good about discarding with the Ricci tile being the 8-peen and it also being Suji to Dora.
Yeah, it's a pretty scary tile, but it's not like you have any other information. Well, and now back to Ishan 10. Any of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mon, and dealer will be Tempai. In all cases, Richinomi. Kuso could have been called for Tempai on the left, looking for more value.
Ooh, another 4-peen.
Decide, we'll wait on that for a bit. Given the 9 is safe, the 7 will be safe next turn because Rachel's pushing much more aggressively and is now Tempai for Ricci Pinfu Tanyodora waiting on 2-5 so.
Yeah, this is something that we have seen quite a lot from Rachel. Pushing a lot into a lot of hands.
Well, so how many do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 1 left. 1, 2 so.
I need to turn off the blue light blocker for I can't tell the difference between the red tiles and the other tiles.
There's the 5 so. Okay, that must be what I meant. Riichi Sumo Pinfu Tanya Dora. No Aura, but that will be Mongon with the 2 Reach 6. And now there's a 500-point spread between first and second.
And now if you're either Ash or Ryan, it's looking like a lot of work to catch up at all. It's for Ash especially, you're probably thinking only about getting over 30K for right now.
And whatever you can do here, dealer starts with a pretty decent hand here with the Hatsu pair, a Dora, maybe a Sanchiku 456 in there somewhere, but gonna be hard to finagle. On the right, we have pretty good shapes. Not much value yet, but potentially Riichi Pinfu Tanya Dora if it goes the right way. Cross, we see an Ishan 10, but no value there as well. And on the left, we have a bunch of ugly shapes that look better than they actually are. You have overlap with the 5, 6, 8, 9 pin. You have anywhere between 1 or 3 shapes in so, depending on how things go. The hand's just really hard to use.
Dealer has a Ryoncon around the Dora, which is pretty nice here. Kind of the upgrade that you might be looking for. Could also get 456 Sanchoku now.
Yeah, you'd love the 4, 5, 6 Sanchoku. You'd take a 2, 3, 4 call if it comes, but really just waiting for where's the Hatsu?
And the answer is nowhere currently.
Yeah, the wall seems to have said no. Ooh, interesting choice now for Rachel. Yeah, it goes and cuts the 3 pin now. We'll be looking to build something around that door that just got pulled in. Of course, having discarded 2/2, so it may be 40-10.
Oh, the 6-mon. Yeah,
Yeah,
keeping
just
the
gets rid of
efficient
it.
shape.
And we see Ryan making a call, probably for Tanya at this point. It's going to be very hard to fill that pin shape, though. It's really awkward. I think I would have just passed there and given up on this hand. It's just so depressing to do that when you're sitting at 7,600. Okay, well, if you draw the 4 pin, all of a sudden you have options. But you still don't have a pair. You still have 4 floaters, 5 floaters in this hand, depending on how you read it. And you're already at turn 11.
Oh, we have Rachel calling pawn on the 1P now.
Going for Sanchuku Nomi, waiting on that 7-mon. There are 2 left.
And 2 in Ash's hand.
Interesting choice by Zilong not to call the 5, so I absolutely would have taken that. There's the Hatsu, finally.
And now we have the Ryoncon Ryanman Ishan 10 for Zilong.
Yeah, not calling the 5, so really feeling like a mistake at this point. Okay, we'll just get another one. That fixes your problem. But instead, this one's held because all of a sudden you're getting very suspicious of anything you're doing. But there's the Sumo across the way for the Sanchiku only, but they doesn't have to put Rachel in first, going into all last.
Although practically any win from Zilong would reverse that, so it'll be interesting to see how they choose to fight here.
Dealer gets not an ideal hand for the situation. Ends up cutting the West pair to start with. I'm not sure what you can do with this, honestly. Maybe a distant 1, 2, 3 Sanchiku, but especially cutting the West pair, you're kind of giving up from turn 1. On the right, we have a couple pairs. Honestly, again, a pretty bad hand. Across the way, we have maybe Itsu in pin, but not great again. The best hand by far is the one on the left. It's not even that good. You have a bunch of pairs. You have Ryoncon, and everything's off by 1. So you're going to have with a bunch of Conchons and occasional pairs. May even back into Chitoy with that.
Oh, we see the Chi from Ryan. What if you're Ryan on this hand? What is your goal?
I don't know. Chinitsu? That seems to be the only play here. If you're calling the 3 pin, you're thinking the shapes are irredeemable. And honestly, I'm not necessarily convinced that's wrong. Even thinking of calling this 7, and that would destroy the hand. There's also a
Yes.
path for Itsu, but you want to get out of fourth.
Yeah.
And unless you're getting a Mongun, and that hand was not going to be a Mongun unless you managed to somehow pull the Itsu out of nothing.
Yeah, so the Chin Itsu Sumo would be enough.
Or you could also add Itsu, given that it may be open here. And you'll be working towards that because you're very likely to have a 7, 8, 9 in this hand, and you already have the 1, 2, 3. So if you can get the 4, 5, 6, that would be Hanemon.
Well, as long as you do stick to the full flush, yes.
Yes, well,
See.
again, if your goal is Mongon open hand, I don't see how you're getting it any other way.
Oh, we have Tenpai for Zilong on the left, waiting on the 2-mon and 5-mon.
Yeah, it says I've had enough of this. Meanwhile, dealers no Ishan 10 for Chitoi. Ooh, interesting
Chi.
choice. Do you Chi this?
Boom.
Oh, this is going to be so. Oh, there's the
Oh.
Tempai across the way waiting on the 4 pin. It will just be the Shinitsu Mongon. Oh, Tempai for D. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, this is scary. Have to cut either the
Yeets.
4 or the 5. And you'd probably cut the 4 because one's already out.
Oh boy.
Dong.
May just.
What do we
And that's
do?
it, the direct hit. Shinitsu. Wow.
What the turnaround.
The 8,000 direct hit, and that will save Ryan a lot of points.
And
But the
and
big winner.
what's incredible about that too is if the 4-peen had come out from either Zilong or Rachel, Ryan would have had to pass because it would not have changed the position.
Well, that's an interesting debate for another time because it's still 8 points, even so. But regardless, we have Rachel getting the win here with 32.9. Zilong with a really strong second. Always disappointing you get a 21.8 second. You have Ryan taking a minus 19.7. And of course, Ash taking the big fourth and dropping to the very bottom of the B1 division. So Ryan, at least now, has moved out. Rachel's feeling much better. Because if you're at minus 36.1, sure, you can fall down, but right now the cut line is Sarah and below. So 125.9. There's a huge spread there. Ryan's out for now, but of course, there are more games to play.
Is there are there only 3 demotion spots in B1? I thought there were 4 rather than 5.
There were 5, but due to someone dropping out, there will be 1 less demotion.
Here only 3 are shown. And 1 less than 5 is 4. But
Now, I'm taking a look. No, it's going to be 5 demotions, except for the fact that there is a withdrawal. So that would be 4 demotions. And Kevin D is a substitute who would be that. So actually, it is, as mentioned earlier, Sarah who is currently the cut line.
okay, and Ash just isn't showing up on this okay, that's the problem. Ash isn't here. That's why I was confused. We don't see Ash's name at the bottom.
Yes, because he's Ennui's probably looking at different sheet, which actually has Kevin D, who's a substitute, who's actually sitting at the bottom of the pool. Like Kevin D, because a substitute is not going to be demoted because it doesn't actually fit in B1 anyway, that person doesn't fill one of those slots. So
Thanks,
we'll be 4
Nathaniel.
demoted.
I appreciate the uncropping of the stats page.
And the next game will be starting any minute. I mean, if you're Zilong, you're just cruising at this point. You're not really worried about anything. Even with a bunch of disasters, you still have easily over 100 points of buffer space and 7 games left.
Whereas Ryan is in an incredibly fascinating position here. Oh wow, look at this hand for Rachel.
Dealer starts out with a nice little Pinfutano hand, maybe even a Peiko, but maybe even Rion Peiko with some shifting. Okay, so much for that idea. On the right, we have Pinfu, maybe an Itsu in Mon. Give the Dora, so I think you should take almost anything. Across the way, I have a Haku pair, maybe Chanta. I mean, those shapes are kind of bad. On the left, we have Hatsu pair, maybe Itsu in Mon, maybe Peiko. It's really hard to use anything. You're also kind of thinking Cheat Toy now that everything's pairing up. Wow, and Dealer's hand improves again. Now, Ishan 10.
Pom.
See a call.
Riichi.
Oh, there's Senpai for Dealer. It'll be Riichi Nomi waiting on 3/6 Mon.
Which immediately comes into Ash's hand, but the three hand
Gee.
very conveniently filled in a Kanchan there. So now Ash actually Ishanten.
And we have Senpai on the left against 6 Mon. There are 3 in the wall still.
Chi.
Might see a Chi, and okay, isn't going to cut 6 Mon yet, but very well could come out.
It's interesting. If you're Zilong on the left, are you also cutting the 5-so for Hatsunomi into this Dealer Riichi?
Sumo.
Oh, and is rewarded.
Say it worked out. Shuts down the Dealer Riichi and pulls in 2,100 points. We move to East 2. I don't know that I'd be that aggressive, especially considering where I'm on the standings, but it's certainly understandable, especially given how aggressively Rachel tends to play. But we look at this hand. Dealer has Dora, Miyuhanitsu in pin. Maybe it's a regular hand now. On the right, we have possible Itsu in pin as well, but that's actually Ishan 10 already for Rishi Dora. Across the way, we have decent Pinfu type shapes. The shapes in So need work, though. On the left, it's probably the best hand. Although now you have 2 pairs, it'd be hard to use. You end up on the Shampon Riichi Nomi, but if you pull in a Dora, then that hand gets really pretty all of a sudden. Ooh, now that Itsu on the right, definitely seems to be going for it now. Needs a 3 and an 8. Ooh, interesting draw with the 8. So, okay, just goes and gets the 5-Mon pair. Definitely sticking with the Itsu.
And Rachel making a move trying to get Pinfu, trying to avoid a Shampon wait, discarding the 9-Mon.
Well, you also have the option for Tanya cutting the 9-Mon, so I don't mind this at all. When you have a Dealer pair up with the Dora, the problem is the hand's so far behind everyone else, doesn't matter.
Talking about Tanya upgrades, Rachel pulls in the 6-Mon, so that's perfect for her.
Yeah, potentially Riichi Pinfu Sanshoku Tanya. But that's not the draw that's going to get you there.
What do you discard?
I agree with that. I'm cutting the 4/5. Ooh. Dora immediately thrown. Oh, that's annoying. Now what you can do about it. Across the way is also Ishan 10 for Tanya.
Riichi.
There's the 5. Easy, Riichi. Oh, no! No! Not the 8. Riichi the 5. Oh, that's a mistake. It is now Riichi Pinfu Tanya. It could be Riichi Pinfu Tanya, possible Sanshku on the 7-so. But given we see 3 of them on the right, it is unlikely that is how the hand ends. But you definitely take it under any circumstances. There's a possibility. There are 4 outs left in the wall, 3 4-Mon, 3 4-so, and 1 7-so.
Riichi.
There's Tenpai for Zilong. And takes it.
Sumo.
Riichi Tanya waiting on the 4-pin and 7-pin, but Rachel's going to pull in the Sumo instead.
There's the 4-so. Riichi Sumo Pinfu Tanya does get the 5200 and the Riichi stick and moves into first place. Move to East 3. Dealer has 3 pairs, not much else. Feels pretty slow. On the right, we have maybe a 2-3-4 Sanchiku if you do some shifting, but again, doesn't feel very good. Across the way, we have, I don't know, maybe an Ipeco and Mon or lower pin. I don't know. It feels pretty bad. On the left, we have, again, just another hand that's very close to being there and just not there yet. So honestly, I'm not impressed with any of these hands.
And this is actually something that you said a couple times. We've seen a lot of really subpar high pay for all of the players at this table in this game and the last, but they have all been so good at building their hands into something winnable that all of these games have flown by.
I see the call of the 3, so not sure if it's going to be Tanya or Toy Toy. Not sure if Ryan knows if it's going to be Tanya or Toy Toy at this point. You pull in the 1 so Anko on the left, so there are ways forward now. Now we do not see the 5-pin called, so it does look like Ryan's going for Toy Toy. It's really awkward from this far off. But we see a pawn of the 6, so is that also a Toy Toy shift? Ooh, and if you're going to do that, I think you just keep the tune earlier, and now you'd have it paired up and it would have just been called. But I don't see the Yaku here. This is happening for both of them at this point. Meanwhile, Zilong's working towards a 789 Sanjuku. There's the 9 so. Okay, it does get called. So this is definitely going to be Toy Toy. And there's the pawn on the left. Ishunten will still be looking for another pair up. Yes, you definitely throw the 5-mon back here. This is something that a lot of players won't think about, but you could always draw 1 and shift into potentially Richi Pinfu Chanta Sanchoku. And there's the extra pair there for the dealer, so now the hand's is basically established. I'm probably keeping that 8-mon around just because I want to be able to call for Tenpai later. Even if I don't have a Yaku, especially as dealer, that'd be fine. Well, there you go. End up with the 2-mon 7-pin Tenpai. Of course, that 7-pin looks like it's going to come out, and it does.
Yeah. Well, both were Suji, actually. It was a double Suji trap there for Ryan on that open hand.
Well, when you're showing Toy Toy, I don't think Suji matters at all.
That's true.
But here we go into East 3-1. We see a call of the Chun. Of course, looking for something connected to that Dora. Of course, you could another 7-mon, but you'd really like to pull in another Dora itself and make that your pair. On the right, we have possible Itsu in Mon. Across the way, we have a bunch of pairs. No really good shapes, though. We have 1 Ryaman. Even that south pair doesn't actually help you at all. And on the left, we have, again, just a not particularly good hand. You may even just call for Tanya out of that.
Richi. Pon.
Oh, there's a Richi, though. Shanpon on the 9-pin and 5 so.
Yeah,
Richi
but
only.
Richi's on the door and it's thrown. And there's the 9-pin, and it does deal in for Richi only. And
What
the Aura
Aura?
Dora. Okay, so that turns it into, with the extra food, 3,200. So back close to 30,000 starting, and we're in East 4.
And again, as we've already said, this table just motoring along.
Well, dealer has decent shapes, I guess, but not great.
Can accept the Dora 3-pin at least.
Yeah, that'd be something. Maybe Sunshku if you can get that. On the right, we have nice shapes in pin and not much else. I don't know. Do you sell out for the Hanitsu? I think I probably would. Across the way, we have decent shapes there, especially pulling that 4-mon. And on the left, we have potentially Itsu in Mon and not much else.
Pon.
Again, just a lot of not good hands.
Well, and Zilong was able to pull in the Dora 3-pin, but on the next round got skipped with Rachel calling pawn on the one peen.
Well, interesting choice. If you do call the East, that is your Yakuhai. So you'll be Tempai waiting on 2-5 pin. You'd really like to turn this into a Honitsu with some extra value, but I just don't see it here. Okay, that's a step towards it. If you draw, say, 5 pin, then I don't think I take Tempai. I think I throw the 2-1 mon.
Well, because you'd be setting yourself up for a really nice three-sided Tanki.
And Zealand just doesn't know what to do with that hand, and I'm in the same situation. Seems to be trying to turn it into the aforementioned Sanjiku, and that seems to be the route at this point.
Yeah, and Ryan getting the Mon Honitsu on the left after pawning that 7 Mon. Just needs the
Okay,
Hatsu to come out.
Rachel's had enough of this and does. Ooh, interesting choice. Yeah, I think you have to pass that. Ooh, we should Dora discard. It's passed. And that is an awkward. Oh, that's not that an awkward in Shunten on the right, because you'll probably discard the 8 pin.
Each.
This is what tends to happen in these situations: is you get a stalemate, and then a third person says, "Yeah, have fun with that." Ricci Nomi waiting on the 5-8, so there are 5 left in the wall.
We've
And
had so far one comment about a missed Sanshoku opportunity, but I feel like we've seen several more Richi Nomis at this table than the
Gee.
Itso is held on to. Do you see anything specific that's making these Richi Nomis happen, or is it just kind of how the tiles have been dealt so far?
the tiles have been terrible for everyone so far. So it's just a matter of taking. You get ooh, interesting, very aggressive
Ricci.
play, throwing the Dora into that Ricci. Oh, and there's Dealer taking the Tempai. Now, which one? Takes the Shampon 1 so
Sumo.
7 so for Ricci Sanjuku. Oh, but
But
there's the Sumo. Ricci Sumo. 1 Oradora gets the 2 Ricci sticks and will be up around 28,000. Now we move to South Round, and the game continues to stay everyone within range. Anyone can get a Mongon and take first place. Oh, that's a great starting hand for Dealer. Not much value yet. The question is, do you really sell it for the Chinitsu? And draws just aren't really pointing that direction. On the right, we have Yuck, Ryankan, Pinchan, Overlap. Okay, that 4-so makes the hand look a lot better. Across the way, we have Pinfu type shape, especially from pulling that 6-pin. On the left, we have Haku pair, which is Dora. So the question is, how can you make use of it as quickly as possible?
a small note from Nathaniel noticed this actually and alerted us to it behind the scenes on that last hand after asking about Ricci Nomis. If the Ricci tile had been the 1-so, then the shape in Sozu would have been 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, making the 2-so the pair and giving Pinfu. So that's something that's really easy to miss when you're playing, to make sure you watch out for. When you have a triple like that, if it's connected to a run, it can still be a pair, and you can still preserve Pinfu. So that's something to be on the lookout for that both Korak and I missed, as well as the player who called Ricci.
Well, Dealer, I
Gee.
think, was stuck on the Shampoo. It would have been the 7-9 shape. That's obviously going to be Pinfu, but could have missed it from the original one.
It wasn't the dealer's Ricci. It was the other
Okay,
player
yeah.
who Ricci.
The original one. So let's see. What do we have here? Dealer is working towards the Chinitsu, but is a long way off at this point still. On the right, still looking to call for still Ishunten, even now, looking for a head. And the real question is, where are the Haku?
Although, would you call the
We're
Haku
actually
if they came? Oh well.
we're actually
correct.
Jama on the left for Ipeco Dora 2.
Would you call the Haku?
Oh, absolutely.
Switch to the Champon 8 9 with
No,
one cut
switch to
each.
the 9-6. Wait, or
Cutting the 8 pin.
3-6-9. 3-6-9.
You're right. That would be 3-sided. Wow, the Pinzu here.
Ooh, 3 so, but you can't do anything with it. Okay, there's your Tempai. 3-sided weight, waiting on 2, 5, 8 so for Tanya only.
There are still 6 more left in the wall. 1 2 so, 2 5 so, and 3 8 so.
I think the question you're sitting in Zelong for, where are the 7 pin? They can't all be using them, can they? And at this point, you have to assume someone's paired up the other
Gee.
Haku. So you're waiting on the Peiko is
Home.
actually a really good situation. Oh, there it comes out. Okay, not much of a choice now, and that'll be cheat. And I
チ
bet you deal in with a 3 here. You have to cheat this.
ロン
Yeah, and we'll deal in there for the Mongon. But when you're given a dealer Chinitsu 3-sided weight where the 4-pin would give you Itsu as well for Hanemon, you just have to push that.
Yeah, it's one of those tiles that you're 90% certain is going to end up dealing in, but
No, not even that necessarily. You think there's a decent chance it doesn't deal in. You know it's going to be something in pins,
Home.
but I mean, 1 in 3 chance, that's worth it there. But now we have Ryan as dealer, calls the
Home.
Shakuhain. We'd love to get Toy out of this, maybe Sanshoku, but really, I think just anything at this point. On the right, we have maybe 789 Sanshoku. Shapes are bad. Across the way, we have Itsu Inmon. Decent shapes elsewhere. We have a Paydora, which you'd love to pair up. And on the left, we have a Chun Call and probably a Haku Call as soon as it comes out.
ポン
there it is.
And it is called immediately. And sitting on 2 Han now, the question is you had Chanta, you had Toy, Honitsu, anything here? And the answer is to all of them, probably not. Because those are really ugly tiles to be able to use.
Is
Ooh,
trying
interesting
to
draw on
set
the
up the
3
Chanta a
pin.
little bit more.
Interesting draw on the 3-pin. Okay, just takes the widest Ishunten. Doesn't try to brute force. Ooh, could see a con. No, instead cuts a 3 and is deciding to go for the Honitsu at this point. I'd say Ryan cutting the 1 so, taking the wider Ishunten, rather than getting a little more aggressive and trying to upgrade to Toy or Janta. Just keeping the Ryankon with the 2 Formon, and then ultimately waiting on the 3-pin.
ポン
Okay, definitely wants Toy out of this. Oh, I don't actually like this switch because of the potential 7-mon 40-10. So even if you pawn the 2-so or 2-pin, then I don't really think you've improved the hand. And yeah, now may end up backing into a very bad situation without realizing it.
Well, it's
Go.
interesting because if they that 8-mon is going to deal in across the table
Just
for the 789
Sanshoku.
Sanshoku.
Yeah, not much value there, and not even enough to take over first place. I think I'd have just thrown the stick in.
It's interesting if Ash
Home.
had discarded the 6-mon later, would have had a
ポン
open Nakazuji trap on the 4-mon.
Well,
Obviously, did not elect to
3
take
dealer
that.
has a Hatsu and 2 Dora. Just looking for anything here on the right. We see a double
Home.
south call and decent shapes, I guess. We're still looking Kanchan, and then extra floaters. Also the Dora as well. And this is getting much more call happy. Everyone's thinking, well, if one person calls, I don't want to get left behind.
And the scores being so close might be a part of the impetus for the players to do that.
Well, I don't like the 9-pin call especially. I don't see where that hand's going. Maybe brute forcing Toy only. I don't see that improves the hand at all.
Oh, there's the 7-pin. But that Dama can't win. That's
Yeah, no
Yaku for
Yaku.
Rachel.
Well, it'd be reaching Nomi, so I agree with waiting on it until you do something with it. Whether it be at least some sort of Sanjiko shift, some sort of Tanya shift. Right now, it's just terrible. And Arichi Sumo doesn't do much for you. You'd still, unless you hit Aura, be fourth going into all last.
The 6-0's helpful.
There you go. Now, if you draw a 4-pin, you can take the Tanya. If you draw 8 Mondora, you'd have Sanchukudora. Meanwhile, that Toy Toy on the left has started to actually develop now. And it shows Tenpai, but there's no Yaku.
リーチ
Yeah, since one of those
Okay,
sevens.
there's your Tenpai. Richi Pinfu waiting on that 4-7. And good luck with that. There is 1 7-pin left in the wall, and that's it. And those 4s and 7s are never leaving. Interesting choice not to call the 2-pin on the right there. Probably just giving up on this hand.
Oh, that 4's safe now.
チ
And I figure it has to get called. You call it and throw the 3, yeah. Looking to upgrade to Sanshoku. Oh, wow, this would be scary. Oh, and that's a Dora. Do you really throw it? Says maybe not yet. But Ryan is looking for Sanshoku Hatsudora 2. Well, I think you just. Oh, I don't like the 6. Playing it safe, so I see the point of it. I just feel a little more aggressive with it. Six. Why the 6? I mean, it is half Suji, but that's not that much. And this is one of the things I always complain about is if you don't know how to fold a hand, don't.
Yeah, didn't have Genbutsu. Or did have Genbutsu. The 9-so was in hand.
But manages to draw a bunch of safe tiles, so escapes most of the danger there.
Boom.
Oh, last turn Tenpai.
And then we see a
Ryan does
palm just for the sake of getting rid of a safe tile. And
sees Dora, calls Dora, but you alternatively force Zilong to have to throw something and escapes there. But
Yeah,
the important thing is Ryan does get to Tenpai, and this will be over 30,000. Of course, ARML plays with floating Uma, so looking for extra value here. And
Ryan did not get to. Ryan did not get to Tenpai. Ash did.
Oh,
Ryan's
sorry,
on the
Ash
left.
did. My mistake. Yeah. And we are in South 4. Dealer probably just has a Tanya type hand. Probably just call it a special pull in that 1300 in the middle. On the right, we have potentially 6, 7, 8 Sanshoku. Not much other value. Across the way, we have decent shapes, I guess, but needs to pull 7 Mon, 5 pins, 7 pins, somewhere in there. And on the left, we have, again, shapes that just aren't there yet. You can see where the 5 shapes are going to be, but they feel a long way off. Dealer feels by far the fastest here.
Yeah, the ability to open is going to help this hand out a lot. Oh, we do have Tenpai for Rachel, though, waiting on the 5-so and 8-so. Again, this is Yaku.
This, I'd absolutely be reaching this. If you've decided you
Boom.
want more value, then just pass and go into Furiten if someone else throws it. Because your only realistic upgrade here is the 4-pin. And you're much more likely to draw the 5 or the 8.
Yeah, the issue is, of course, this is where you're playing an interesting game if you're Rachel, where you'd really like to.
Well, yeah,
you'd really
that
like
right
to get
there.
third.
If you sumo, you also manage to pick
Reach.
someone else under 30K. You're not paying the full. Okay, you're not paying the full minus 20 even in 4th place. Instead, just takes the Sumogari Ichi. Again, I definitely would have thrown it 3 turns ago.
Yeah. Another note
Home.
that's something that has been talked about quite a lot
T.
in the Discord is if you
Sumo.
don't take. Oh, but there's the 5-so sumo. So let's see how this ends out the game.
Won't be enough to overtake, but does knock Ash under 30K.
You can effectively think about that as a 9,300 point gain because your UMA goes from -20 to -15. So you get the
Yeah,
plus
we have
4,300
a
and the
tie
plus
for
5,000.
first. We have a tie for first here, so they will split plus 10 each between between Ryan and Zlong. Of course, Ash takes the minus 5.5, Rachel with the fourth, but not a bad fourth. The first game more than made up for that with minus 18.1.
So, and as Korak was saying, Tinho does not display the split UMA. It all goes into the data for the league correctly, but they should be plus 11.8 each here for Ryan and Zlong. And the note that was being made there at the end about Rachel's hand, just to wrap up that thought, since it is important, if you aren't going to if you aren't going to Ricci your Tenpai, if you're going to Tama and wait around for a better improvement, something that especially you, Korak, have said a lot is you're probably better off not taking the Tenpai at all. Like taking the wider Ishan 10 that will make it easier for you to draw back in to a useful Tenpai that might gain you some value as opposed to taking a Yakulis Dama that you can't run. You don't really want to sumo just sumo because it's not as much value as the Ricci, so leaving yourself wider weights.
Right, and in that situation, there was a two-so that was discarded. You could have held that, hoping to connect to Dora, and sure enough, the three-so came later. So that could have been Ricci Sumo Pinfu Tanya, Ricci Sumo Pinfu Dora, which would have been a significant change.
I mean, Ricci Sumo Pinfu Dora, that'd be enough almost to take first. At the very least, you wouldn't be last, and well, it wouldn't be
It would
enough to
have
pull
gotten you
both
right at
players.
30K, right at the 30K. I think 30,100. That was 2,000 opposed to what would be 5,200. So yeah, I think it still would have been third, but it would have gotten you over there. You wouldn't have paid out the minus 15. You gotten a plus 0 for a third place over 30K. But it's hard a lot of times to see that. But again, if you're not going to play that way, just throw the stick in immediately. By waiting that long, all you're doing is giving other people chances to build their hands and be able to fight you.
But
All
with that,
right,
it looks
runs
like
down.
the
Yep.
players not playing anymore, so
Yeah, they are only doing these two games. It's very late. Even on the West Coast, it's still 10:30 in the evening. So we are going to be wrapping up here. Of course, you can see the top 5 of every one of our divisions. The B2 leagues, of course, do not have a next session. They are done when they hit their 20. The only people that will be playing for those leagues will be people in playoff spots to either promote towards B1 or to avoid demotion towards the new B3 league due to all the expansion that occurred this season. But as for our games, any closing thoughts?
the only closing thoughts for me are to make sure you watch out for future streams. None are planned yet, but there are a couple that have been discussed. So be sure to keep an eye out for those next streams that might be upcoming.
All right, then. This is Korak along with Ennui for the American Reach Mahjong League, wishing you a good night. Take care, everyone.